Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Intercollegiate athletics began at Central during the 1943-44 school year. The Free Methodist Church voted at the previous General Conference to allow all their colleges to participate in intercollegiate athletics. The story has it that a pastor in the West Kansas Conference, J.T. Pyle, pleaded to change the rules so that our boys will attend our church colleges rather than attending somewhere else in order to play sports, particularly basketball. He was perhaps referring to his own boys, Edwin and Glenn Pyle. The new ruling provided that interscholastic games might be played with colleges which maintain high standards and ideals, but also stipulated that no Free Methodist school would be a member of any conference or league. The ruling against football was clarified by accepting touch football and soccer. The prohibition against ordinary football remained unchanged. And Archie Sherrill is credited for naming the basketball team, the Tigers, by calling out, "Come on, Tigers!" All Free Methodist affiliated colleges started intercollegiate athletics that same year, 1943. Ladies and gentlemen, we have special guests that have pulled out the stops to be with us this afternoon. We're going to be introducing them. They filled out a survey form, and we're going to let you know what they said. On my right, I believe it's called the North, Harvey Ludwig. He played, please step forward to the free throw line and give a little wave. And 1959 through 61, he said he played anywhere that Coach Selberg told him to. On the south end, Jerry Malone. He's out of Greenville, South Carolina now. He played Central basketball from 66 to 68. He was a guard. He played under Ed Pyle. And his notation says, "Too bad they didn't have the three-point line when he played." Don Bales, living in Kingman now. Classes 55 through 57. He was a guard forward. He was under Coach Selberg. John Pyle, Kansas. He lives in the Wichita area, 1968 through 69. He was a guard under Dad, Ed Pyle. And what was it? He also coached the 1973 through 74 basketball women. And Prairie Junior College season shooting percentage 51%. He was a Kansas first team All-State at that time. Jerry Fithian, McPherson, played, coached 1976 through 81, and he assisted 1981 and 82 as the head coach. And he played under Saxton, coaching at Colby when Mike was hospitalized and beating Heston in the game of the career. Bob Burns now lives in Siloam Springs, Arkansas. Played 61-62, 62-63. He was a guard under Coach Selberg, mentioning that Central changed his life. Carol Zahorsky, Leawood, Kansas, 1957 to 59. He was a center forward under Selberg, and he became a plastic surgeon in his career. Steve Porter, 1975 to 77. He was a forward under Mac Saxton, and he remembers the team scored 125 points in a game before the three-point line was added to basketball. Played in the national tournament his freshman year. Galen Shields, 1960 to 1964. He was a guard, lives in McPherson. He was under Coach Keith Ivers and enjoyed working with the Hall of Fame's player, the team. All right, Mark Roadhouse of Osborne, Kansas. 2 times, 78 through 80, he was a guard under Saxton and Fithian. Carol Ann Zortman, Wichita, Kansas, played girls 60 to 61. She was a guard and traveled to California, to Chicago and Greenfield. She was also homecoming queen in 61. Hal and Kathy Hoxie, Oklahoma now, played under Mike Saxton. And let's see, we got Al Henron, Pinconning, Michigan. I hope I did that correctly. He was a guard under Ivers, Bacon, and Salzburg. He found his best friend while he was at Central Christian College. Kay Zortman, Wichita, Kansas, 1960 to 62. She was a center and forward, make that he, played under Soberg. Gaylord Gillette, McPherson, 69 to 71. He was a guard, played under Ed Pyle. Sid Sowers, Valley Center, Kansas. And he played 71 through 72 as a guard under Ed Pyle. He also met his wife at Central. Justin Gillette, Hutchinson, Kansas. Coached men's basketball 2001 through 2006. And beating Mac when they were ranked number 14 ranks as one of his memorable experiences. Todd Stevens out of Wichita, 1981 to 82. He was a guard coached by Jerry Fithian from the bench, he says, for the whole year. Slept in and missed the bus once. Bill Pyle, McPherson, as well as in the Denver area, played from 1968 to 1970. He was a guard under his dad, Ed Pyle. And when they beat Wichita State as his freshman, hit the Wichita State freshman in the sophomore year. And that was before freshmen could play on the varsity. It was an overtime win, one of the wonderful, memorable experiences. Steve Corthius, Berea, I hope I did that correctly, Florida. He was a center under Fithian and Turner, made many lifelong friends. Pat Muntz, Fager, maiden name was Fager, yes, Hutchinson, Kansas. She played 70 through 72. She was a guard under Mary Hawkins, cheerleading for 2 years. Met her husband at Central. John Reeser, Ringgold, Georgia. Played 2 in junior college, and evidently played some more when we turned in 4-year college. Forward, he played pickup games with a lot of the Hall of Famers. Larry Jones out of Yuma, Colorado, 83 and 84. He was a forward under Fithian and Hibbard, and he was a most valuable player in 1984. That would be memorable. Wendell Krober, Westfield, Indiana. 1943, he was the mascot. 1956, the guard he played, and that was when it was the academy. Great memories, great friends. Charles Stevens, Mineola, Kansas. 50 to 52, he was a guard under Coach Krober. He also mentions meeting his wife at Central. Brent Reeser, Greenfield, Missouri, 1965 through 66. He was a center forward under Coach Ivers and best free throw percentage on the team. Richard Stephens, Greenfield, Illinois, 1949 to 51. He was a guard under Howard Krober. And here's an interesting one. He was the first to even touch a black person playing basketball. How about those apples? Phil Nelson, McPherson, 68 through 70. He was a post center under Ed Pyle. And he likewise mentions beating the Wichita University freshman in overtime at the McPherson Roundhouse was a highlight. Margie Sowers Hargadine, McPherson, 1957 through 58 in the high school, 1959 in the college. She was a guard. Name of the coach was Beatrice Wright. Years cheerleading, 57, 58, 59. Margie Hargadine. James Nelson, McPherson, 1972 through 74, he was a guard under Mike Saxton. And we're not going to mention what he put down. Karen Sander Girls, Baxter, Minnesota, 1966 through 68, dedicated her lives to missions, she said, while she was here. Pearl Joy of Tyler, Texas, played 60 to 61 and 61-62. He was a forward under Marvin Selberg. First to christen the new court with blood at midcourt. Tim Garrels, Baxter, Minnesota, 1966 through 68. He was a forward under Ed Pyle, and Jerry Alexander was the assistant. Played with somebody everybody knows, Jerry Malone. David Joy, Round Rock, Texas, played in 59 and 60. Had 5 fouls in the first quarter, one of his memorable experiences. Betty Griffith McPherson played, she was cheerleader in 1950 and 51. Larry Anderson McPherson, 1972 and 73. Dave Mason McPherson played 4 years, 2 in high school, 2 in college. Played under Ivers and Pyle. Arnold Kugler, Beatrice, Nebraska. He was a guard under Jackson, and Dodner found his lifetime partner. Lee Craven out of Wichita. He's a forward. He played from 1943 to 44. Forward, played under Archie Sherrill. Don Rounds, McPherson, 1944 through 45. He was a center reserve, played under Howard Kober. Les Argadine, McPherson, 1957, 58, and 59. He was a forward center under Marvin Selberg. Sam, let's get it right, Claiborne, out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He was a guard under Tony Romero. Sherry Horan, she was a cheerleader 1973 through 1975 as the head cheerleader under Marty Saxton. Kedrick Warren out of Tucson, Arizona. Forward, Tony Romero had 8 blocks in 1 game. Ernest Burton McPherson played at Central 2014 through 27. He was a shooting guard under Tony Romero. He recorded a triple-double. Tom Morgan, Illinois. He was a guard under Ivers and Selberg, and close with the players and the coaches. Got a couple more. Joan Ludwig, Ottawa, Kansas. She was cheerleader from 1958 through 61. Marty Saxton, cheerleader. Neighborhood coach, Gillette. Guy Gardner, McPherson, 2001, 2006. He was a guard under Justin Gillette. Let's give these people a hand. Thank you for coming. If you can stay standing, please do. Ladies and gentlemen, we're inaugurating new members this evening, but let's recognize the current Hall of Fame members that are here. Keith Ivers, he was the Athletic Hall of Fame, affectionately known as Coach among faculty and students. Keith Ivers personified athletes at Central College, beginning at Central in 1955, with only a limited opportunity for students to participate in varsity sports. Keith developed a successful and multi-sport program for both men and women. Besides administering the physical education department in varsity athletics, Keith coached nearly every sport offered at Central. He also offered his administrative expertise to the greater athletic community by serving as president of the National Small College Athletic Association. Keith Ivers will long be remembered for his strong Christian influence and his dedication to God in the classroom and on the ball field. Coach Ivers deserves to become the inaugural inductee to the coaching category. Keith Ivers, a dedicated and beloved Christian coach who led Central Athletics to new heights while touching lives with the love of Christ along the way. That's the information on Keith Ivers' plaque. Please acknowledge Keith Ivers as an original inaugural inductee to the Hall of Fame. Do we have somebody representing? Robert Smith, widely and affectionately known as Ish, went from a solid basketball and baseball career at Central College to the various highest levels of worldwide sports fame. Concentrating on the sport of baseball, he first won coaching honors at every level and was the NAIA Coach of the Year in 1969. But it was as a baseball administrator that he achieved his greatest fame and made his greatest contributions. First, as president of the International Baseball Association, he led the fight to have baseball included in the Olympic Games. In 1993, he was awarded the Order of the International Olympic Committee, international sport's most prestigious award. Honored by many foreign governments and elected to many halls of fame, it was entirely appropriate that he became the inaugural inductee in the Meritorious Achievement category. Robert E. Smith, a Tiger athlete who carried the blue and gold in the heights of international sports fame, even to the peak of Mount Olympus. Thank you for acknowledging Dr. Robert E. Ish Smith. Ed Pyle had a passion for basketball. His playing career started as a high school standout, continued as a Central Christian College Tiger, and finished at the University of Kansas playing for the legendary Phog Allen. One of his greatest joys was his 5 years as men's basketball coach at Central College, which included the privilege of coaching sons John and Bill, making it a family affair. Reva, his wife, filmed the games, and Patty, their preschool daughter, traveled with them on the team bus. Coach Pyle was always proud of one specific victory as mentioned in the 1969-70 Centralian Yearbook. Quote, possessing a greater depth of ability this year, Central's basketball team gave fans many exciting moments. The Tigers' 1-point overtime victory over the Wichita State freshmen was probably the most thrilling. It certainly proved to spectators that we have a team to be proud of, end of quote. Central College saw Ed as a giant of a man and his passion, love, and support of Central College. Pyle Construction, with Ed and Reva Pyle leading the way, has built nearly every building on the Central College campus. In March 1998, the Board of Trustees voted to name the sports facility, including the new gym, the Ed Pyle Sports Complex, in honor of his many years of service and support of Central College, including 35 years as a board member. A 1983 Academy of Achievers recipient, Ed Pyle will long be remembered for his tremendous loyalty to Central College, his appreciation of Central's contribution to his family, his willingness to give generously to Central College both monetarily and with his time, and to be identified in the community as a staunch supporter of Central College. Ed is one of a select few who has been significant impact in the ministry of Central College. When it all said and done and history leaves one, it is Coach Ed Pyle who backbones our basketball team as dedicated and a praiseworthy leader. That's from the Centralian Yearbook. Representing his father is E. Tom Pyle. Please recognize Coach Ed Pyle. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing our 75 years of men's basketball inductees. Howard Kroeber could be considered the father of Central Christian College intercollegiate athletics. He took over basketball in its second season and coached for a total of 6 years, 1940 through 47, and on staff until 1957. With a winning percentage of 46.4%, Coach Kroeber accumulated a record of 45 and 52. Achievements during Coach Kroeber's legacy, including a team scoring 101 points in 2 different games, winning the Los Angeles Pacific College Tournament, that's now Azusa Pacific University, and the team going 18-8 in his first 2 years of coaching. This run stood as the best 2-year run until 1993. Coach Kroeber also started baseball, coaching in 1944 through 46 and 1952 through 53. An accomplished builder, Kroeber was responsible for building at least 2 buildings on the Central campus still in use today. Two of his players are fellow inductees Marvin Selberg and Tom Griffith. Howard Krober was a legend at Central as well as at Greenville College. Please join me in acknowledging Coach Howard Krober. Standing in is his son, Wendell. Marvin Selberg coached men's basketball at Central from 1954 through 64, following his playing career on the second and third teams in the school's history. He served as captain of his team as a sophomore and was his team's second leading scorer. During his 10-year period of coaching, Coach Selberg won 100 and lost 105, making him the first coach to reach 100 career wins. During this time, Central joined the National Junior College Athletic Association and started the Prairie Junior College Conference. Coach Selberg's teams won their own Central College tournament, as well as the Los Angeles Pacific College tournament twice, and the Wessington Springs College tournament once. The color barrier was broken by Coach Selberg when he recruited Milt Fuller and Clem Bailey to Central in 1959. Coach Selberg's team of 1960-61 had the best record of 16-7, and that stood for almost 50 years, not broken until 1992-93. His teams consisted of numerous tournament MVPs, as well as NJCAA regionally and nationally ranked scoring leaders. 6 of the 8 inductees this year played for Coach Selberg. Marvin is well known in the McPherson community as a man of integrity and dignity. He was an accomplished college professor of business in the central Kansas area. Please join me and acknowledge Coach Marvin Selberg. A highly recruited player out of Winfield, Kansas, Don Mason, chose to play at Central for Coach Selberg. Don served as team captain during his years of 1955 through 57. His teams won the Central College Tournament, where he was chosen to the all-tournament team. The team also won the Los Angeles Pacific Tournament, and Don was the National Junior College Region 6 leading scorer for both of his years, averaging 22.6 points per game during his career. He became the first 1,000-point scorer in Central history with 1,041 total points. Don went on to play at Roberts Wesleyan College. He then distinguished himself in the field of student development at Asbury Theological Seminary, and finally as president of Central Christian College of Kansas from 1996 through 2005. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in celebrating Dr. Don Mason. Tom Griffith was perhaps one of the most unique basketball careers at Central. He played basketball and baseball his first year in 1950-51, leaving to go farm near Pratt, Kansas after the first semester. He then returned to play his second season for both basketball and baseball in 1958 through 59. These two separate seasons make Tom the only player who was privileged to play for both Coach Krober and Coach Selberg. He served as a team captain both years and was the leading scorer. At the Los Angeles Pacific Tournament, where his team took third place, Tom was selected as the most outstanding player of the tournament. He was also selected to the NJCAA Region 6 team as an honorable mention selection. Tom went on to a distinguished career as the pastor of the McPherson Free Methodist Church, as well as the conference superintendent of the Great Plains Conference of the Free Methodist Church. Please join me in celebrating Tom Griffith. Johnny Taylor served as team captain for both of his seasons at Central from 1959 through 61. He was the second leading scorer in the NJCAA Region 6 his first season, averaging 19.3 per game. Central won the distinguished 8-team Los Angeles Pacific Tournament, where he was chosen the most outstanding player. Johnny came back his sophomore year to lead the NJCAA Region 6 in scoring with a 20.3 average. The Cavalcade School newspaper states that Johnny was one of the finest ball handlers and scorers in Central history. Johnny accumulated 853 points in his 2-year career playing on the outstanding 16-7 team of 1960-61. Please join me in celebrating Johnny Taylor. Milt Fuller served as captain of his teams from Central in 1959 to 61, earning the team's MVP award. During his first year, Milt was the leading scorer in the NJCAA Region 6 with an average of 19.6 points per game. His second year, he was the Region 6 second leading scorer. He accumulated 843 points during his 2-year career. The Central College team won the 8-team Los Angeles Pacific Tournament Milt's sophomore year, where he was selected to the all-tournament team. Also in his sophomore year, he was selected as one of 10 players to play on the North team in the 3rd annual Junior College All-Star Game in Lawton, Oklahoma. Coaches from Western Kansas and Northern Oklahoma nominated Milt for this honor in 1960 and 61, found Milt being the second leading scorer in NJCAA Region 6. Went on to play at Seattle Pacific College. Milt was often referred to as the best player in the history of Central men's basketball for many years. Representing Milt Fuller is son Ross Fuller. All the way from California. Okay. Galen Myers also played on that outstanding basketball team in 1960 to 61 in his first year at Central and helped inaugurate the new Pyle Gymnasium on campus. He went on to graduate from Central in 1962, then briefly worked for Pyle Construction before joining the Air Force for 4 years. Galen returned to Kansas to work in the experimental department at Boeing. From there, Myers seized the opportunity to join the corporation that became BG Productions Incorporated, where he advanced through the corporate structure to retire in 2010 as chairman and CEO. Galen founded Central Christian College's BG Products Lecture Series and twice served as a member of Central's Board of Trustees. Recognized for meritorious service, Galen Myers continues to honor Central today. Please join in celebrating Galen Myers, represented by Ken Lugensland. Mike Saxton played on the first team in the newly formed Prairie Christian College Conference. He was selected as the most valuable player in the Los Angeles Pacific College's New Year's tournament, where he scored 87 points in 3 games. His first year, the stat line of the season was 46 offensive rebounds, 104 defensive rebounds, 49% from the field, 67% from the free throw line, and 24.1 per game average. Not once, but twice during his freshman season, Mike scored 39 points. During his sophomore year, his 21.4 points per game average was a top 20 posting with the National Junior College Athletic Association. He was selected as second-team All-Conference his second year following a stint in the military during the Vietnam era. Mike returned to Central to serve as the 9th head coach of the Tigers, along with additional campus responsibilities. Coach Saxton became the second coach to win 100 games, with the most wins of any Central coach until 1997. He was Coach of the Year twice in 1972 through 1975 in the Prairie Junior College Conference. Coach Saxton worked with over 10 all-conference players, including Carl Cleaver, who was the first Central player to be inducted into the Central College Athletic Hall of Fame. Please join in acknowledging Coach Mike Saxton. Unfortunately, Carl Cleaver sends his regrets. He was not able to be here this evening. One more time, let's give a standing ovation to our 2019 75th anniversary of men's basketball inductees.
This is Coach Marvin Seltner, and we're here to honor him tonight for his years of service as basketball coach, longtime basketball coach at Central
10
College.
years.
10 years.
I was the seventh one in line.
Seventh one in line. You played on one of those early teams.
I played on the second year and the third year.
So he was a
We had
player.
good teams.
You had good teams then.
We had good teams.
Yeah, that's right. I think you guys were 18 and 10 in those 2 years, which was a good start.
I got to play every game, every minute, except when I fouled out. I was never substituted. They didn't have a giant bench. That was one of the reasons. I wasn't that great, but I got to play every minute other than when I was disqualified.
And they had no gym, so they had to play downtown in the convention center that they called it, but it's a community building.
Community building. Occasionally, McPherson High School, we would play there. And we had to play church schools primarily. There was a limit on the number of games per year.
Yeah.
We didn't have to wear long pants, but our coach and his wife and a few other ladies made the uniforms and the warm-ups and everything. So we had the full complement of proper garments when you went out to play basketball.
All right. Is that good?
They even cut out the numbers.
Oh, they did?
They cut out the numbers and had them positioned
Sewn on.
exactly right. Yeah, those are good.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start the program. You're just like my psychology class.
My accounting class.
Jerry and I were both professors, and it always took us 2 or 3 minutes to get our class calmed down. And so we would like to go ahead and get started at this time. Welcome to the third Central Christian College Athletic Hall of Fame, and to the first and only celebration of 75 years of intercollegiate athletics, which started with men's basketball and cheerleading in 1943-44. I would like to introduce my friend and former colleague at Central Christian College, Mr. Jerry Fithian. He served over 3 decades as professor of business, 5 years, which seemed like 2 decades, as assistant coach to Hall of Fame inductee Mike Saxton, and 2 years, which seemed like a lifetime, as head men's basketball coach.
Come on, Malone, do it right.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, let me go back over that. 3 years, 3 decades, professor of business, 5 years, assistant coach to Mike, and 2 years as head men's basketball coach.
And it's my pleasure to introduce my former MC, my friend and former colleague at Central Christian. During his Central student years, he was a 2-year letterman in soccer, basketball, and baseball. He then returned as a staff member with titles like admissions counselor, professor of psychology, dean of students, and coach of 2 national championships. The banners are in the other gym. And a not so deadly 3-point shooter, Mr. Jerry Malone.
We're honored and humbled to serve as your MCs for the evening, knowing it will be a special, one-of-a-kind occasion. Join us as we listen to the stories from the early days of men's basketball and reconnect with one another. As we move chronologically through our 8 inductees this evening, please follow the program on the reverse of your Hall of Fame souvenir placemat, as well as the biographies.
We would also like to direct your attention to the silent auction tables located on the south wall behind you this evening. The silent auction began this afternoon during the halftime reception of the men's game and will continue until an announced closer during dinner. The auction proceeds will go towards Central Athletic Facility upgrade. There's also a memorabilia table with items borrowed from the Central Christian College archives. Treat them with utmost care. Side note, if you have any Central memorabilia that you could be donated to the athletic archives, please see us at any time before you leave campus.
Our instructions for the evening meal: you'll be dismissed by table by our hostess, Nancy Malone. Proceed to the buffet lines, starting from the outside and moving toward the center. Drinks will be provided at your table. Please extend a Hall of Fame welcome to Reverend Dr. Lenny Favar, the 14th president of Central Christian College of Kansas, as he brings words of greeting and invocation.
Good evening. Before I came up here, my wife and First Lady, Dr. Deanna Favar, back there, hello, madam, she reminded me that the best speeches are those with a short introduction, a short conclusion, and very little in between. So in the spirit of that advice, let me begin by saying that on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the faculty, the staff, the alumni, and the students of Central Christian College, it is my great pleasure to welcome you here to campus tonight. For some of you, you remember it as Central College, but now we call it Central Christian College of Kansas. It is with great sincerity that I say to you, we are glad that you are here. We've eagerly been planning for this time together and are honored that you have come to celebrate here tonight. In fact, I believe that I heard a few of the floorboards creak a sigh of joy when some of you walked into the gym tonight, as if they remembered the company of a long-lost friend and took comfort that you have once again graced the hallowed halls of this gym. That's the short introduction. This is the little bit in between. As you've had a chance to walk through the hallowed halls of this campus, you may have noticed a few changes, such as a second gym, a plaza where a road used to run, the absence of Lewis Hall and the presence of new halls, even for some of you, the lack of smell coming from the refinery. Lots of change. Yet, if you look past the physical changes, not much has changed at all. Central is and always has been a home, a sanctuary of learning, a sacred space defined by a people passionately pursuing a mission to provide a Christ-centered education for character. That was true in 1884 when Orleans Seminary first opened its doors. It was true in 1914 when Central Academy and College began its operations. It was true 75 years ago when many of the legends we celebrate tonight were just young men and women, and it is still true today. For 135 years, this little college, occupying about 15 acres of land, has stood firm on the belief that God can and will do amazing things through the lives of those who will submit to his glory and guidance. And you are examples of that legacy. So I conclude with this invitation. Revel in these moments tonight. Let the joy of our fellowship melt away the years as we embrace one another as members of one family, the Central family. Let us pray. Great God, we come before you tonight to seek your presence and your favor. Come, Lord, dine with us and bless both the sustenance we take and the fellowship we share. May you grace us with your Spirit that we might fully savor our moments together. And Lord, we pray that if there may be a way, might you grant the souls of those saints that are gathered by your side, that once walked with us here, but now with you abide, that you let them see beyond glory to sit as guests tonight, as a cloud of witnesses, so that they too may take joy in our sweet fellowship. So come, Father, celebrate with us tonight. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
While you're enjoying your tiramisu with that cup of coffee, we would like to hear from our current head men's basketball coach, Tony Romero, and two of his senior players, Jabril Osagi and Josiah King. As the fellas move to the microphone, help me express our delight for this evening's meal to our caterer, McPherson's Ristorante Italiano di Famiglia. And to our banquet coordinators, Central graduates, Roy and Beth Sherman. Beth, Roy. Assisting Roy and Beth this evening, we prevailed upon the athletes. In this case, it is the golf team. Men and women of Coach Kyle Moody's golf team. All right, we pose questions for each of these three gentlemen who joined me on stage. Tony, I'd like you to briefly comment on your spiritual journey to head men's basketball coach of Central Christian College. Tony Romero.
Good evening. They told me I had to stay on script and tell my story off a piece of paper, so I'll try to do the best I can, Fifth. Yeah, my name's Tony Romero. I'm a men's basketball coach here at Central Christian College. I'm originally from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I was recruited in 1999, 2000 by Coach Gary Turner, and at the end of my junior year, and I kind of had a weird story on how I got here, so that's what they wanted me to share. But at the end of my junior year, I told Coach Turner I ignored him several times. I didn't want to leave the state of Oklahoma, and I'll admit it because I was a mama's boy, and I got homesick, and I didn't think I would want to go outside the state of Oklahoma. So I ignored him as much as I possibly could, but God apparently kept pushing and tugging at me. So into my senior year in high school, my mom happened to answer the phone when he called, and so he started talking to my mom, and before I knew it, she had already set up a visit to come to visit Central Christian College in March after my senior season. So I got on the phone with Coach Turner, and he started talking to me about the school and talking to me about me playing here and what he saw me doing and different things like that. And by the end of the conversation, I said, all right, I'll come, because my mom's making me come. But I said, can I bring my best friend with me? And my best friend at the time, Melvin Sanders, which a lot of you guys probably know him. He's a board member and a graduate at Central Christian College 2005 as well. He said, yeah, bring Melvin up. Yeah, bring him up, and we'd love to have both you guys up. So a couple weeks later, we came to visit. I slept the whole way from Oklahoma City to here with my mom, my dad, and Melvin and myself. And when I woke up, they said, we're here. And I really got scared because we drove across those railroad tracks right there, and I saw a refinery. I've never seen one of those before. And so I said, we're where? I'm a city boy. I've never lived in a small town. I did live in Albuquerque, New Mexico a little bit growing up, but it's pretty much been big city life for me all my life. So again, I was kind of set back by that. But we came visit, had a great time with the team here. I mean, it felt right. It felt right. But inside my heart, I knew that, and in my head, I fought that. And so I fought it as much as I possibly could. I got to share with Coach Saxton last night, and Maddie Saxton was the calf lady at the time, and she was trying to slide me some extra Snickers going through the calf line to make sure me and Melvin signed to play basketball here at the time. And so she was great. She was great to us while we were here. But we came visit, had a great visit, met with the guys, meshed well, and soon as we left, Melvin was like, hey, I'm all in. I'm signing Coach Turner. I don't care what Tony does. Thanks, Tony. And it was pretty much, I'm in, and I don't care what you're doing. So my parents prayed. I went home. I had a couple offers back home to play basketball at a couple other schools, and I thought that's where I wanted to be, but apparently it's not where God wanted to be. So 2 weeks later, after some prayer from my family and Melvin's family, I committed to Central Christian College in 2000, and we decided to come up here and play together. It's crazy how God works. Not one time did I come up here, when I came up here in all 4 years, did I ever get homesick. And it's the power of God. I knew where I was supposed to be while I was here, and so, but I got to meet my wife here. I got to play basketball here. I got to build a lot of memories. Got a first-class education in the business department, led by Mr. Fithian back here as well. And so I'm sure he probably has some fun stories, him and Dr. Farrell, about me in class sometimes, but I'm sure they appreciated me as much as I appreciated them. Okay? So, but I graduated in 2004 with a business degree. After that, I went to work for Edward Jones Investments as a investment representative, got my Series 7 and 63s license. It's the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life. and I let it go after about 8 months because I didn't feel like that I was doing what God wanted me to do. And so I felt the tug to get back into basketball, be around the game. I grew up around it all my life, and I thought I wanted to get back into coaching. And during the time, Coach Gillette took over after my freshman year, and we built a really good relationship. And through my time here at Central, and he made a big impact on my life as well. And I think when I came back, I convinced him enough to, I don't know why, but he said, yeah, come help out. And so he did. He did let me come out and help. I got to work under him for 2 years. And then he left. And then Coach O'Brien, who's now at Southwest Christian College in Winfield, he took me on board under his wings and mentored me for 3 years as well. So I got to serve here 5 years as the assistant basketball coach. And then after that, Matt O'Brien moved on. He got another job. And Jerry Alexander and Bob Marsh, the AD at the time, called me and said, hey, we're thinking about, maybe you being the next head basketball coach. I was on vacation with my wife on her farm in Nebraska, and I said no. And so I didn't think that's where I didn't think that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to coach and maybe go to high school basketball and maybe try to learn to play golf and have the summers off and do that thing. Still haven't learned how to play golf. I do not have the patience for it, and I'm very, very bad at it. But God had something else for me. And so after prayer, after talking to my wife, they called back, and I told them no again. And so I told them I don't think I want to do that. And I go look back on that time, and I think it all comes down to two things. The two things we talk about a lot with our guys, and I'm sure you guys have heard plenty of times in your life, is about fear and faith. And I think I was committing myself to Central Christian College as a student. I feared it, and I feared the opportunity to coach here as the head men's basketball coach at that time, even though God kept nudging me instead of operating out of faith. It took a letter by my wife, my beautiful wife, who I met here. We got married after my sophomore year, Lindsay Romero. She's in the back, class of 2004. She's from a town this big in Nebraska. So this is the biggest town she's lived in. Yeah, watch it. You guys are starting to get good again. All right, but met her here, and she wrote me a letter. She wrote me a letter encouraging me, and that letter still sits in my office desk, encouraging me to be the coach here. And so here we are, just finishing up our 10th year as the head coach here. I've been blessed to use the game of basketball to cross paths with a lot of different guys that I've been blessed to coach, and we get to mess with their lives and hopefully show them Jesus. And we used to use the game of basketball as a platform to build God's kingdom, and for that we're forever excited. And I'm to do it at a place that my wife and I care so deeply about has been pretty special to us. So that's kind of my story they wanted me to share, and so we're looking forward to hopefully many more years here at Central. Thanks.
I can't believe it. Didn't mention those beautiful children that he's got as well. Thank you, Tony. Josiah, as you contemplate graduation from Central in a couple of months, what spiritual lesson do you really want to take with you? Josiah?
I think the most important lesson that I learned here at Central can be summed up to say to battle mediocrity in my life. Okay.
Get as close as you can.
All right. This is a lesson that God has been teaching me through multiple people on this campus throughout the past 4 years. It's kind of interesting how sometimes people are blind to what they see, and it wasn't until last semester that I had a moment where it all came together, and I realized what God was showing me throughout my time here. It was during a Monday chapel. We had a speaker come in, and he quoted Jim Collins. The quote is that good is the enemy of great. And I didn't really pay that close attention to the rest of chapel because I was sitting there just thinking about the quote and how the past 4 years, all these lessons, they all just led up to that. And it all just gathered together and was a very impactful. It was a very impactful chapel, even though I don't really remember what else he talked about. Even though God worked through many students, chapel speakers, and Dr. Farrell even helped me realize this lesson, the person that God used most consistently throughout these years to teach me this lesson has been my coach, Romero. One of the things he always said to every single team on multiple occasions is that if you don't do enough to get by, if all you do is to do enough to get by, you are just like everybody else. I truly believe that one of the main things that God has been teaching me these past 4 years has to not just been to make it through life or to be content with good enough in anything that I do, but instead God wants me to continuously push past being good and into being the best person that He would have me to be. Even though there has been multiple lessons that I have learned through my time here, God has showed me the importance of the effort that I put in the things in my life, and I will carry this lesson out of college and into the rest of my life.
Well said, Joe. Godspeed as you move on from Central. Now we're going to hear from Jabril about how Central helped him in his faith journey. Jabril?
All right, first I just want to say I'm honored to be here, like Coach T. How can I put this? God is working in my life crazy. Before I got here, my life was really just spiraling down, and I always knew I wanted to play college ball, and I would have never imagined it to be this, changing my life off the court so much has done, and so let's see, how do I put this? When I first got here, I was ready to go back home, just because I'm from Houston, big city. I'm not used to something so small like this, a school of 400 people, and but as the years went by, just being around somebody like Coach T who cares for you more so off the court, being around all of these people who care for you, who you go to chapel every day, and you're just your spirit is just you're just attracted to just God, and just your faith is just I wake up every day and just thank God, you know what I mean? My faith has just grown so crazy, it makes no sense. And let's see, how do I put we went to this year we had we have a team retreat every year, and I actually committed my life to God. So I dedicated my life to God and just my faith. So I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for being here. I would never imagine myself being here right now, and just thank you.
Thank you, Jabril, Josiah, Tony. We appreciate the opportunity to engage you fellas, and I know Athletic Director Johnny Garvilla is going to be asking each of the fellas on the team the first part of the week what it was like to engage this body of individuals and to rub shoulders with them. Thank you, gentlemen.
Before we go any further, I would like to introduce my wife, Nancy. Nancy, where are you? There she is, back over here. She graduated from Central in 1971 and has put up with me for 47 years. As you can read in your programs this evening, Central Intercollegiate Athletic Program started in 1943-44 with a basketball team that played 5 games. We have one member of that team here tonight, as well as 2 members of the following year. So from the 1943-44 team, Mr. Lee Craven, would you wave your hand, or if you would like to stand, where is Lee?
Back here.
Lee, you look like you're a point guard. You look like you're a point guard. And from the 44-45 team, Mr. Don Rounds and Mr. Marvin Selberg. So with those 2 gentlemen, right there we go. We'd like to start the Hall of Fame section of the program this evening. And at this time, with our first inductee in the coaching category. Please welcome Wendell Krober, accepting on behalf of his father, Coach Howard Krober. Presenting Coach Krober for induction into this Hall of Fame class is his longtime friend and colleague, Dr. Ish Smith. While they come, just share a couple of things about Howard. He's considered the father of Central Intercollegiate Athletics. He was a Renaissance man and an entrepreneur. He was a builder, an inventor, and was a man of many talents. He touched the lives of many as he served college students on 2 sister Free Methodist College campuses. He became a legend at both Central and Greenville.
Well, I'm very honored to be able to introduce Coach Howard Krober into the Central Christian College of Kansas Athletic Hall of Fame in the coaching category. I first want to thank the family for this honor that's mine. The 3 sons who are here tonight. It's a real privilege. And then I was told I could ask all of those who are here who played for Howard Krober who can stand, so we can see the athletes who played for Howard Krober. We know Marvin Selberg did. Rich? Okay, back, yeah. I was privileged to know Howard and Anita Krober for over 65 years and actually lived in the same town with them for 50 of those years. For me, Howard Krober was the one who recruited me to Central College. Over the years, he was my coach, my dean, my professor, my Sunday school teacher, my mentor, a model Christian parent for Joanna and me, a colleague, a coffee buddy, and a friend. Of the many men who have positively influenced my life, I have identified about 75, but there are 3 who are the top 3. My dad, Coach John Strahl, and Howard Krober. And then there's a lot of other good ones. Howard Krober, truly a man for all seasons and a man of many, many talents. In the mid-1940s, Howard and Anita, Howard along with his wife Anita, left a very good paying job in the aircraft industry in Dallas, Texas, and came to McPherson for, I'm told, about 1/4 the salary. And that began a 55-year career in Christian education at Central College, Phoenix Christian High School, and Greenville College. Here at Central for about 10 years, Howard Krober built the Industrial Arts Building and the program, built the Tiger Den, or the Student Union. He built a Dairy Queen just across the street, the only one in Kansas that didn't sell on Sunday. Attaboy, Howard. He served as basketball coach, academic dean, and was the face of Central College to most of the Free Methodist churches in the constituency almost all of those years, and recruited almost all of the students who came here. If any one man who could have been responsible for keeping the doors of this institution open in the early 1950s, there were many, but at the top, I think, would be Howard Kroeber. I, along with a few others who were here, had the privilege of calling Howard our coach, although I spent almost all the time on the bench. I was honored to be on his bench, just to be a part of that Tiger team. Howard was a disciple of Oklahoma A&M legendary coach Hank Iba, and he would sometimes have us run laps while he read the book by Coach Iba. And sometimes he would get so engrossed in his reading that while we were running around that balcony of the building uptown, when we thought we should stop, Howard was still reading. But I can tell you, there was not one of us who didn't hold him in the highest respect, because we knew he cared for us, he loved us, and he wanted the best for each of us. No Central College Athletic Hall of Fame would be complete without Coach Howard Kroeber. And tonight this completion occurs. To God be the glory. Well,
I'm Wendell, the oldest child, and my brother took a chance to let me come up here because I grew up in McPherson. I went kindergarten through Roosevelt Elementary to 6th grade to the middle school. I missed the 7th grade because Dad went to SMU to get his master's degree. So I did 1 year in Texas and then back to Central, or back to McPherson for the 8th grade, and I went to the academy for the 9th grade and played basketball here for a while. This isn't the gym I remember. You know the gym we had back then? It sat near this property. It was a frame building. It had no inside guts. It had no insulation. It was just outside, and that was it. And the court was about the size of the building. If you did a layup, you better be careful because you're going to hit the mat at the end of the place. That was our practice gym. And then we had to go downtown to play all of our games, and we practiced down there some of the time. So those are my memories of practice time at Central, not in this gymnasium. It was far different than that. So I have all these memories and all these people I've seen and known, and then during that time, Central didn't always make its payroll. And that's why my father was creative and an entrepreneur, because he bought a church downtown on a parsonage that was 2.5 stories high. He moved that parsonage down here to Oak Street, fixed it up and sold it, and it's still there. My brother went by and took a picture of it. He took the church in dump trucks and brought the bricks down. Our house, we're the last one on Maple Street. The house is still there. You can look out these doors and see it. He built that house shortly after he built the shop department. He dumped those bricks in the back of that building. He took the lumber out of that building, which was like mostly rough sawn, and it was like lumber you never saw before, huge pieces of wood. He paid the college kids to clean those bricks, put them in a rail car, and shipped them to Dallas, Texas, where my grandfather was a bricklayer. He talked his contractor into buying those bricks from McPherson, Kansas. There are homes in Dallas, Texas with brick veneer from McPherson, Kansas. Wasn't that something? They cleaned those bricks and shipped them to Texas. And so that's the kind of things he did to make payroll when Central came up a little short. Sometimes you got left out, but he did all those kinds of things. And so those are memories. Also, then my brothers, I shouldn't let them, I make them all cry when I tell them how poor we were. I went to kindergarten and I didn't have a dime for milk for the week. And so I sat over at the edge while the rest of the kids had the milk. And my mother made my clothes, and they all say, oh, stop, stop, stop. Don't tell me any more about that. So I'm the older brother that grew up through those times. They came along during the richer times. They had the better times. They had the cars in high school, and they had all the clothes. And mother didn't make their clothes, and so that's a family issue. But my father did all those creative things. The Dairy Queen, my uncle was in the Navy. He was a pilot. He was flying off of a ship in the Mediterranean right after World War II. He didn't get to fight, but he was there during the peacetime. He was not a Christian. My father said, when you got to get him out of the Navy, we got to get him away from all that travel and the joy of flying. And he said, you've got money from the Navy. I've got a strong back. They went over to some neighboring towns that had a Dairy Queen and counted the number of malts, sundaes, and cones that came out of that Dairy Queen to see what they made that night. They were researching the Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen didn't have hamburgers, French fries, and all this stuff. It was just ice cream. That was it. And he then got my uncle out of the Navy. He met his wife here at Central. They married. He became a Christian shortly after that time. And it changed his life. It changed all of our lives. He became a football coach and had 5 girls. That's what God did to him. That taught him a lesson, didn't it? And before sonogram, he had twins. He thought that was his lineman for his football team, but it was 2 more girls. And he gave up so after he got the basketball team. But those are my years at McPherson, and still, in thinking of a couple of weeks, all those things come back to mind about all the things he did. He bought the first bus for Central to go busing with the choir. And the bus became a feature because he bought the old Greyhounds. He researched it and brought it on. And the creative things he did at Central during those years. The Tiger Den that he built, my mom ran the Tiger Den. And back then, the schools didn't have cafeterias. I walked downtown to the old high school down by the convention center, and I'd walk home to the Tiger Den to have lunch and walk back to school after that. And that's the way we did it in McPherson. We didn't have buses. We didn't have cafeterias. Those were the good old days. So it's great to be here. The memories and the seeing the people and all the memories that come back from all of you, former girlfriends, when I was here in the 9th and 10th grade, and they're still around. So it's been fun. And thank you all for being here to celebrate that and to celebrate my father and all the things that he did at Central. If you want more time, I guess we can talk after. I can tell you more stories of being poor or being creative in McPherson. Thank you.
What, do you want to use my notes?
No. It's my opportunity to talk about the person that is behind the scenes with me. Ever seeing, ever loving, lives with my faults. My opportunity to introduce my wife, Carol Fithian. Where's Carol? There she is. Carol's way at the back. Nancy and Carol are keeping anybody from escaping. You have to survive through this. All right, we're having fun. Please welcome our current Hall of Fame members. Hold your applause until all have been introduced. With the members present along with those families representing members, please stand and remain standing as their names are read. Dr. Ish Smith, Central graduate 1955. Ish, if you'd stand. We're missing tonight, Mr. Carl Cleaver. I was privileged to coach Carl with Coach Saxton. Central graduate 1980. Carl unable to attend because of the weather. Mr. Keith Ivers, Central staff, 1955 through 1991. And his family, the Ivers. All right. And Mr. Ed Pyle, Central graduate 1947 and Central staff 1966 through 1971. There are 2 tables of Pyles back here. Would they please stand? Let's recognize these Hall of Fame current members. Our second coach inductee in the coaching category is Marvin Selberg. Presenting Coach Selberg is his son, Dr. Martin Selberg. Please welcome them to the podium. I believe Coach is going to speak from down here. Martin, wherever you're comfortable, if you would. This next inductee presenter pair have a special bond beyond that of father and son. Coach Marvin Selberg, upon occasion, took his young son Martin on various outings related to his Tiger coaching responsibilities. The trip to recruit tonight's Hall of Fame inductee Milt Fuller was one such time. As told by Coach, on that particular trip, young Martin played with the neighborhood kids while Coach Selberg visited with Milt and his mother. As a result of his son's outgoing friendliness, Coach credits Martin with successfully recruiting Milt to Central. Dr. Martin Selberg.
Well, I'm here to validate or debunk any stories that are happening this weekend, and I'll tell you that it's humbling and horrifying to have a crowd where such a large percentage knew you when you were age 3. So I apologize for that in advance. The other interesting thing is the number of people in this crowd that haven't heard of 1943. They were alive in 1943. And it was an interesting time because most 18-year-olds, we all remember when we're 18 years old and graduated from high school, their future is one of opportunity and stability and trust in good things to come. In the class of 1943, that was not the case. That was the greatest generation time where they were called to respond and literally save the world. And if you'll remember, in the summer of 1943, the outcome, the world's future was still very much in question. America's engagement had turned some tides, but there was this intense need for manpower. Marvin Selberg graduated in May of 1943 at the age of 17, so he could not enlist without his parents' permission, and they had no intention of giving so. He did apply to Marine Aviation Officer training, and when he turned 18 in September, off to Chicago he went to begin his military career. When he was home in November of that same year and helping a neighbor do farm work, he fell through the platform of a thresher where his left leg was entrapped in the grinding part of the combine. Now, I'll tell you, as an emergency medicine physician and an EMS physician, this part really fascinates me, because I'm just trying to picture November in 1943, how they extricated a young man from being trapped in an implement, how they transported him to the hospital in a car, in the back seat of a car, and the readiness of the hospital to deal with a injury of that nature. The treatment at that time, if you think about it, there was no sophisticated orthopedic procedures, and there was no antibiotics. So the treatment was leaving that open wound open with an external fixator to keep the leg straight so the bone could heal, while they sprinkled sulfa inside the wound to minimize infection, which it's an amazing story. And then you do that for 3 months. You do that every day for 3 months. So Marvin spent that winter immobilized, and he got out of his bedridden prison on February 19th of 1944. On February 20th, which is in 4 days, 75 years ago, he presented to admissions at Central College on crutches, and he enrolled in the spring semester. So by fall of that year, he was on the basketball team, and as he relays it, he played every minute of every game for 2 years, except when he fouled out, and he didn't share how often that was. That was the day when they played 4-year church colleges: Bethany, Kansas Wesleyan, Tabor, even Fort Hays State. I'm not sure where the church college comes in there, but they did play Fort Hays in that 2-year stint. He met his wife, Marie Skatine, and after college they moved to Chicago, and he finished his degree at the University of Chicago and his MBA there. When he came back to McPherson and accepted a job as instructor for $85 a month, they added on $50 a month for the basketball coaching job. But that 10-year period added stability and credibility to the basketball program at Central College. Marvin and Marie created what I think is now referred to as the President's House over there on Avenue F, and that's where I spent the first years of my life. It was spent between running to the gym, being a gym rat over here, going to the President's office where my mother worked, and then stopping by the new Tiger's Den. I'd cut a deal with Dean Bacon so I could get a half order of French fries for 10 cents. And that habit stays with me today. And then the nights after the basketball games, that house was full of characters like Milt Fuller, like Clem Bailey, like Mike Saxton, my mom's spaghetti, Italian sausage and peppers. It just didn't get any better. That was an important time for myself, an important time for my sisters as well. Each of us had turn going with my father on recruiting trips in the Deep South. We left this Midwest small town perspective, and we were guests of very gracious families in the South, many of which eventually sent their sons to the Midwest to play basketball at Central. Now, as adults, we understand that concept of values and how they're more powerfully imprinted by watching and being mentored by then being disciplined and lectured to. So for all of us kids, watching our father's interactions, his compassion, his commitment, created this foundation of values within our family, within his family, that I hope we're passing on to our next generation. I'm guessing many of the people that played for him in here have those very same feelings. So, some moments and some experiences truly last a lifetime, and tonight is one of those. So there's many of you in the audience that call him by his second favorite name, my second favorite name for him, which is Coach. And my first favorite name for him is Dad. And the thing about Dad and Coach is they require similar skill sets. Now, his expertise in that, though, really qualifies him for the Hall of Fame in either one. So I'm very proud from the class of 1946 to introduce my father, Marvin Selberg.
And no, Coach Selberg, we can't cancel this thing.
Hey, thank you, Mark.
Is it alive? I got it. Well, you're going to hold it. Yeah, I'd rather hold it. Yeah. Because he's a good friend, I could say that. Thank you, Marty. I'll raise your allowance next week. I came here in 1944, been around McPherson since.
And it's been a good run. I've enjoyed the college. I've enjoyed being with people that are associated with the college. I'd like to give you just a little bit of history. My first recruit, I didn't have to recruit him because he wanted to come to Central, was Don Mason. And a great choice he was to come here. The next to the last one was Mike Saxton. So in between there were quite a few, and it was an enjoyable time. I was too young to appreciate the quality of men that came through those 10 years. And I have thanked the college over and over again for that opportunity. They brought to the college and to basketball two attributes that were very important. Obviously, they were competitive. And secondly, they persisted. They had persistence. They would stay practicing early in the season, sitting on the bench once the season started. Some of them got to play, but not all of them. They played and they persisted, whether they won or whether they lost. They stayed with the program from beginning to end. Those are two great attributes for success in life. And I like to talk about mainly the success in life these people have had. And I can't give you a litany of everyone. But I can tell you about a few without naming names, because it wouldn't be fair not to name names. To name names. Two of the people came to McPherson, played basketball, and then worked in McPherson afterward. Their work was president of Central College. That's amazing. They gave back to McPherson and certainly gave back to college as a result of their efforts. A third individual, hey, by the way, those two people are here in the group this evening. A third one became Greenville University president. And he's helped them out, but that's back in Illinois someplace. He's here tonight. We had two others that were interesting. They both had businesses in McPherson. Actually, one was north of McPherson toward Lindsborg. And they became politicians. Now, McPherson County has 3 commissioners that run the county. 2 of those commissioners were Central College basketball players at the same time. We had 2 out of 3 of them. And they were elected, and they were elected again every 2 years and every 2 years. Now, I tell you this about the people that came through the program. Milt Fuller was another that is not here tonight, except in spirit. But he was a great athlete, a great person. He achieved a lot in his work as a great family that are represented over here. I was so glad to meet them. They seem to be tall. Anyhow, I would like to thank the college for hiring me in 1954 for 10 years, in 1964. I only got $50 a month for 3 months out of the year, but it was well worth it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't quite up to Big 12 standards, by the way. Anyhow, I appreciate the fact that I've been able to have that experience, and I've got these wonderful memories. I wasn't old enough to appreciate it when I was coaching, but I am old enough now to appreciate it. I can't walk up the steps here, by the way, and if you don't see me, why, you're not missing anything. But I'm here, and I'm very happy to be here and this occasion to be able to talk about things that I'm very thankful for having happened. To get to coach for 10 years with wonderful men, the litany of their achievements would be endlessly long. So I'll not repeat any more of them. By the way, there's a couple other things I'm happy for. I'm happy for this evening. Yesterday and today, all these people who are coming back, some I haven't seen for 50, 60 years, they've all gotten old. The people that I coached are in their 70s and 80s. That's a long time. Third thing I would like to express thankful for, please accept this, even though it may be a little shocking. I'm glad that the group chose me
to receive a Hall of Fame award. And I'm glad they chose to do it now instead of posthumously. That'll be a thank you.
Very good. I'll let you have Martin get that chair out here.
That's the sound guy, right? Yeah.
I think it's appropriate at this time that any player who played for Coach Selberg or a cheerleader who was on the cheerleading team during any of those years, would you please stand? As you can see, we're presenting a ball for each inductee, and I would like to say to the inductees that we have pins here, so if you would like to collect the signatures of the players that are present tonight and put them on that basketball, you're welcome to do that. So these pins are up here. A key member of Coach Selberg's staff was assistant coach Dean Bacon. We are pleased that his daughter Jill is present tonight with her husband Jamie, who played baseball at Spring Arbor College under Coach Selberg's brother-in-law, Hank Burbridge. Jill and Jamie, please stand and be recognized. A vital cog in the ministry of Central Christian College and any college around the country is the Board of Trustees. Will Central Board Chair Gary Anderson, along with all past and present trustee members, please stand and remain standing. Past and present. In addition, no, that's fine, that's fine. In addition, we have Central Athletic alumni who have gone on to become college presidents, as Coach mentioned. Would the following please stand? Dr. Richard Stevens, Dr. Ish Smith, Dr. Don Mason, Dr. Harvey Ludwig, Colonel Hal Hoxie, and our present president, Dr. Lenny Favara. Please give them a round of applause. Please welcome Reverend Dr. Tom Griffith. Tom will be inducted as a player by friend and teammate Dr. Richard Stevens. Gentlemen, please join us at the platform. Tom had a unique Central experience which spanned the decade of the 50s, playing for Hall of Fame coach inductee Howard Krober in 1950, and then he returned 7 years later to play for Hall of Fame coach Marvin Selberg. Many in this room were privileged to have Tom and Betty as their pastoral couple at the Free Methodist Church here in McPherson for many years. We have been blessed to have them involved in weddings, dedicate our children, counsel and guide us, comfort us during hard times, laugh with us, play games with us, and be our friend. Their family has been an integral part of this community for many years, and we are thankful for their years of service to the kingdom and loyal Central alums.
I heard of Central College when my brother Gail, a teammate of Marv Selberg's, came here, and a roommate of Bob Wright. I longed to come to Central College, and when I got here, I was so homesick. I packed my suitcase on the third day and was hitchhiking, I thought east, but I was on 81 North on the front campus. It was a disorienting experience, and the smell, the wafting of the odor from the refinery. But if I had persisted in that, I would not have met my friend Tom Griffith. I must tell you that Tom met his wife-to-be, Betty, in Iuka, Kansas, where he lived, and in Preston High School. I met my wife here, Arlene Greer, and if there's any truth to the statement, it is borne out by us. All men marry up. Most all men marry up. Tom, it's a high honor to say a few words about you on this significant time of 75 years celebration of intercollegiate basketball. You know, just a couple of years ago, I became interested in how the church changed its view that there should be no intercollegiate sports. And I found that such people as Dr. H.J. Long, president of our college, Greenville College, and Bishop Marston teamed up to get that story accomplished. I have written that, and if anybody would like a copy of it, I'd be happy to share it to you. Jerry's read it, and he's looked at it from this vantage point here. Now, to say a few words about our basketball team. We players, the team of 1950-51, that's a long time ago, folks. We players, Tom Griffith, Luke Dahman, Bob Adams, Bud McMullen, Verl Helsel, Charles Stevens, Richard Stevens, Gaylord Lugansland, Bob Doobie, and Walt Bemis, we thought it was all about basketball. Coach Krober knew there was a higher calling. Speaking of calling, Tom, being honored tonight, was hearing two calls. The call of Betty Willis, his high school classmate and sweetheart homecoming queen during their junior year when Tom was captain of the homecoming football team. We're talking about basketball tonight, Tom. The other call that was becoming increasingly clear was a call from God on Tom's life. What shall he do with his life? Hearing both calls, Tom and Betty even took dates to midweek prayer meeting. Well, where else was there to go? And it was Betty who was enrolling in Central College, and she brought Tom with her. You know, our team that year, 50-51, was not what one would call a winner when one looks at the scorebook. But it wasn't due to Tom's lack of skill. The Preston High School basketball team, where Tom was the leading scorer, lost to the eventual winner of the state championship by only 1 point in the regional tourney. Hearing of Tom's arrival on campus, the student newspaper, Cavalcade, carried Coach Kroeber's statement, quote, "I expect Tom to be the playmaker on the team this season," close quote, which was only the 8th team in intercollegiate basketball history here. The team won only 3 games that season, not due to Tom's lack, as his next season, some years later, will show. But Tom contributed mightily to the spiritual renewal that occurred during the season in that basketball team. Tom was even on gospel team number 1, and he would go out with the teams to sing in churches. Team spirit, said the centurion, team spirit and effective Christian witnessing throughout the year resulted in a genuine spiritual renewal. I'm going to have to tell you about this because I was a part of that. Coach Kroeber walked out on the auditorium platform one evening, folded his arms, no music, no singing, no prayer, no nothing like that, and said, "I wonder if there's anyone who would like to do business with God here tonight." That's what he said. I found myself up out of my seat, walking to the altar for prayer. That was a powerful turning point in my life. I've never forgotten it. It's not the only time God has met me and dealt with me, but that was a significant turning point in my life, dear friends. And I would just tell you that many times when I had the privilege of sitting on the platform with chapel and would see people make moves forward. I must tell you this, Ish Smith one time sent my son to Russia on a leave of absence, Rick, and he met a Russian friend, Vladimir. Ish, you recall Vlad. Vlad came to our little college one time, and he saw the movement of God's Spirit in the lives of young folks. He was standing near the head of the chapel, over on the right side, and tears were just running down his cheek. And he said, "Richard, Richard, what is this? What is this?" It was a beautiful thing. Well, I must get on because I'm limited by David Farrell to 3 minutes, and I'm already over. But there was another reason for the spiritual turnaround, namely, two ladies, Betty Willis and Arlene Greer, who are pictured in the Centralion. You see that picture over on the right? Betty is holding the basketball team up. That is the intramural team, ladies, called Thrashers. And she is learning how to be a leader. Arlene Greer is kneeling, and the symbolism cannot be lost on us. Both ladies who were destined to become first ladies of two significant ministries in our church. I like that picture. Tom, we are blessed beyond measure tonight. It's a great privilege to honor you and invite you to come. And let's welcome Tom Griffith for admission into the Central Christian College Hall of Fame. Join me.
Thank you, Rich, for those words of introduction. I'm almost hesitant to say anything because you'll understand how some of that's kind of stretched. I am deeply humbled, highly honored to be named to this group. Any contribution I may have made to the Central Hall of Fame basketball program pales in light of the benefits I have gained. God blessed me by placing me in a Central Kansas farm family. One of the pictures that was in the loop shows Dad and me standing beside my '65 Chevy in front of our garage. And if you look closely, you see the bottom of the backboard on which a homemade basketball hoop my dad had made was placed. And that's where I really learned to shoot the basketball. I also attended Preston, as was indicated, during a time when we won most of our games during my 3 years there as a starter. And of course, I can't really talk about Preston without mentioning my favorite cheerleader. Betty, I think you really ought to stand. I think Rich mentioned, or somebody mentioned, that I had to kiss her when I had to crown her queen, football queen. Now, wait a minute. I just got that turnaround. But I did. I had to kiss her when I crowned her. And the upshot of it is she became quite familiar with the passenger side of that 41 Chevy you saw there in the pictures as well. We often attended the Eden Valley Free Methodist Church on our dates. During a series of revival services, I knew I'd get shook at this. We both committed our lives to Christ. I didn't say much about it, but at that time, I felt God calling me into the ministry. Since I wanted to farm, and you may have seen a picture there of our whole family It was really in the front of that Eden Valley Church right after we were married. We all were just starting our families, my brothers. There were 5 of us, my dad, my 3 brothers, and myself. That Betty and I, when we were first married, lived on separate farms within 5 miles of each other and worked together. A rich, rich thing. And I hated to miss that. I knew that would be taking place. Well, Paul Zickafoos. How many of you know Paul Zickafoos? Several of you? He was a prof here. Talked to Betty about coming to Central, talked her into it, and he kept trying to talk me into it, and I didn't want to come because I wanted to farm and so on. But the upshot of it was he was on his way to pick her up. Now, why that was, I don't know. He called and said, "Tom, wouldn't you change your mind?" And the pressure was too much. And so I said yes. And the upshot of it was he had 2 of us in his vehicle on the way to Central that very day. Well, when basketball season arrived, Coach Krober included me as a member of the varsity. Now, you've heard Rich name the players. What a privilege to play with that team. And as a part of that, again, Betty was a cheerleader just like she was in Preston. Now, obviously, Coach Krober taught me about basketball, but more importantly, he demonstrated that Christian principles and integrity are more important than winning ball games. For example, I have never forgotten his instruction that when playing, if you knew you knocked the ball out of bounds, don't stand there to take the ball like it belongs to you. Be honest. Now, isn't that something that stuck with me for however many years that's been? There's a sense in which the Christian atmosphere of Central Christian College contributed to my decision to drop out after the first semester. At that time, the semester ended in January after Christmas break. I soon learned when I came to Central that that was not the place to be if I hoped to escape God's call to preach. Missions convention, evangelistic meetings, regular services. The conviction became very heavy on my heart. And one way to deal with that was to go home. And so I talked Betty into going, and we left at the end of the semester. And then almost a year later, we were married. In that last game before the semester's end, I scored several points. I just thought I was hot. I didn't learn until years later that Coach Krober had told the team to feed me the ball, thinking that would help me decide to stay if I scored a bunch of points. Well, anyway, we went home. Not quite a year later, as I said, we were married, and it was Les Hargedine's father who performed the ceremony. We spent 7 years, including that year, farming where our family all operated. But in the words of Francis Thompson, with unhurrying chase and unperturbed pace, the hound of heaven pursued me to the farm. In my heart, till I finally said yes to the call to preach. So on July 25th, 1958, Betty and I put our stuff up for a farm sale, and I enrolled in Central College to prepare for the ministry. During that year, Coach Selberg gave me the opportunity to be a part of Central's team. I enjoyed many aspects of that year, but there were some I didn't. As an old man, I wasn't used to working that hard to practice. And Marv got the idea we ought to get shaped we didn't go around the top, we just ran back and forth on the gym. I thought I was going to die. One outstanding memory of that year, though, is our trip to the California LAPC Christmas tournament. Although we didn't win it, we had a good tournament, ending up in third place. And then we played the final game I played in college was the JUCO tournament, regional JUCO tournament in Arc City, where we played Hutch, the champion of the Western JUCO League in Kansas. We nearly upset them, leading all the way until the last minute or so of the game. And Zeke just told me today that I missed a shot at the end of this. I was very privileged to play under Coach Selberg. His patience with us, his model of Christian living, as well as his expertise in the game of basketball, and Marie's hospitality and food added a wonderful aspect to our experience. Well, I need to hurry on. I was going to tell a little bit about our pastoral experience. We graduated Central, had 2 of our kids, and they're here tonight. Why don't you guys stand? Claudia and Linda. Linda was 3 and Claudia was 5 when we were here for that last year of Central. We went to Greenville College, where I pastored, had a student pastorate. Upon graduating from Greenville, we were appointed to the Lawrence Church, Lawrence, Kansas Church, where we pastored 8 years, and during that time went to Nazarene Seminary. And then we were appointed here to the McPherson Church and spent 21 years as the pastor and then the superintendent and so on. Well, since becoming the pastor of the McPherson Church, my basketball participation has, past tense, consisted of church league, over 30 league, a few donkey basketball games here at the gym, and that's it. I really can't find words to express the influence and blessing Central Christian College has been to me and my family. Betty and I attended here. Both of our girls attended here. 5 of our grandchildren have. And the Holy Spirit worked through coaches we honored this evening, the faculty, the staff, guest personnel, other students, to challenge me to full-time commitment to the Lord. Back in 1999, I felt unworthy when college named me and my favorite cheerleader to the Central College Academy of Achievers. My feelings this evening are similar. I simply say thank you. And as occurred in my life and the life of my family, may Central College's student athletic program continue to influence young men and women to commit their lives to Jesus Christ and to serve Him wholeheartedly. Thank you so much.
You know how to shoot? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Won't mind, Lord.
This weekend, we have many of Central's former coaches present, and we would like to recognize them at this time. With the following, please stand and remain standing. And Marvin, you can just wave your hand, but Marvin Selberg, Mike Saxton, Jerry Fithian, Bill Pyle, Justin Gillette, and Tony Romero. Please stand, gentlemen. Thank you for your dedication to our student athletes and all your work. Please welcome our next player inductee to the podium, Dr. Don Mason, along with his presenter, our friend and colleague at Central, Dr. David Farrell. Dr. Don was our president and boss from 1996 to 2005. What a pleasure it was to serve Central with Dr. Don and Margie Mason. He brought great warmth and direction from his position and moved us from Kansas's oldest junior college to a 4-year institution. And he instituted the name change to Central Christian College of Kansas. Dr. David.
It's a real honor to introduce Dr. Don Mason into the Hall of Fame class of 2018-19 at Central. I served with and for Don on the cabinet at Central as Dean of Admissions for about 10 years, from the late 1990s to the 2000s. I found Don to serve Central and the Kingdom with the highest integrity and leadership. He inherited a campus that was fractured from previous events. Between his leadership and his lovely and kind wife, Margie, they brought purpose, warmth, and healing back to campus. I remember when he came to interview for the presidential position that he had adopted his interview theme as Celebrate Central. Don is musical, athletic, a servant leader, a little mischievous, a father and loving husband. He exhibited an open door policy to friends, students, staff, faculty, and administrators. Don has a good balance in life as a leader, but also got things done and also investing in relationships with people. Don brought higher education experience to the presidential table, having served in student life at numerous institutions. One of the many accomplishments of Don's legacy at Central is changing our name from Central College to Central Christian College to reflect better our public commitment to Jesus Christ. Don brought strong and decisive leadership, and he knew the role of a college president to raise money, but he also had fun. Don is a Central classmate with Ken Lugansland, Loogie, as we affectionately call him. Upon hearing of Don's selection by the board to serve as president, Loogie, when he first encountered Don, fell to his knees as if bowing to a king. Don, not missing a beat, told Loogie to get on his feet and get out his checkbook. As a pastor's kid, they moved around a lot, and Manhattan, Kansas, the home of Kansas State, was one of those stops. Don's basketball abilities did not go unnoticed by the coaching staff at KSU. Many don't realize it, but Don chose Central to attend rather than the bright lights of the major university. His basketball stats bear this out. Besides participating in athletics, Don served as the student body president, but another important role was that of matchmaker. Vev, Loogie's wife, recalls this story. It was an evening psychology class, meeting in Science Hall. Don and Loogie were sitting together as they waited for class to begin. Only one chair was empty in the room, and in walked Vev. With a mischievous look on his face, Don jumped up and offered her his chair next to Loogie's. Don looked very pleased with himself. Now, after 60 years, they are still sitting together. So many students historically make important spiritual decisions during the collegiate years. Over the years, Central has offered those opportunities and continues to do so today. It was President Elmer Parsons that perceived that Don needed to make that adult commitment to Jesus, separate from the guidance of his parents and other mentors. At the prompting of President Parsons, Don made that commitment, which guided him the rest of his life. In Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he discusses getting the right people on the bus, and in chapter 3, he closes with this, quote, "If we spend the vast majority of our time with people we love and respect, people we really enjoy being on the bus with, then we will almost certainly have a great life. The people we interviewed from the Good to Great companies clearly loved what they did, largely because they loved who they did it with. Don, along with many people in this room, I have clearly loved working on our mission at Central with you. What a privilege it is to welcome Dr. Don Mason to the podium as a member of the Athletic Hall of Fame at Central Christian College.
David and I have an agreement, and that is we're going to stay on time. So I'm going right ahead, other than to say I learned, the first thing I learned when I became a college president, no longer shake hands this way, you shook hands this way. I had cataract operation, it's great, I can see all of you, but I can't read anymore without these. Thank you, Dave, for the introduction. Needless to say, I'm both honored and humbled to be selected to this unique and special group of men. 75 years in our American eyes is a long time. However, after visiting other parts of the world with Margie, especially the Holy Land, one of the lasting impressions was that 75 years represents just a small portion of time for most of the world. However, I do think I can offer a unique perspective to this occasion. When I was 5 years old, my family moved from Ohio to Wichita in 1943, where my father became pastor of the Second Free Methodist Church, later to be named Crestway. Among the members was Albert Cheney family, which included a son, Bob, and who as a teenager was attending Central Academy, and his sister Beverly, who was my age, about 7, I believe. I was excited one day when Dad said, let's go over to Friends College tonight and watch Bob Cheney play ball. Now, before TV, we did have exposure to football and baseball through local teams and on the radio, but basketball was still somewhat of a mystery to me, and this was the first game I had ever seen or attended. I was pretty naive about the game, similar to the international student I heard about who was taken to a university football game. And in the interest of time, I'll give you 2 statements, and if you want to ask me about the story afterwards, you can. The first statement is, this was his first exposure to American football. And the other statement is, get the quarterback. And if you want to ask me about the rest of the story, do that after we're done, and now I'll leave it at that. So my basketball beginnings was directly influenced by Central basketball team from the very beginning of its program. When I went to the ball game, Beverly Cheney was there, and she'd been to several games, so she knew something about basketball and about cheering. And so I sat next to her in the stands and learned about basketball and what to cheer about. And then 12 years later, Beverly Cheney was in the stands here at Central College as we were attempting to play basketball at that time. And then approximately 40 years later, Beverly Cheney Spann was a member of the Board of Trustees encouraging Margie and me as we served as President and First Lady here at Central Christian. So my basketball beginnings was directly influenced by Central basketball team from the beginning of its program. Later, I spent 4 years cheering on the Wildcats of Kansas State with Ernie Barrett and Jack Stone as my heroes and Coach Gardner leading the way when my dad was pastor at the Manhattan Free Methodist Church. We then moved to Winfield. My high school days at Winfield were memorable as I grew up literally, gained valuable experience in coaching under Joe Thornton, a former K-State Wildcat, which led to experience on a senior team where if I was going to play, I had to play the number 2 guard. There were 3 fellows taller than me on that team, and we lined up for warm-up by dunking, which for a high school team at that time, 4 of us, dunking was quite a memorable occasion. We went on, we had actually the leading scorer of the state, Stan O'Neill. We finished as Dark Valley champions, and were one of the Elite 8 and finished with a record of 23 wins and 2 losses. But as my senior year basketball experience came to a conclusion, K-State came calling to weigh my interest in joining their freshman team. Now at that time, freshmen were not allowed to play varsity. I did not hesitate, but informed the coach I was going to Central. Was it the first game I saw that influenced my choice? Not really. Through the rest of my grade school, junior high, and high school education, I had a number of opportunities to meet students and faculty, observe several of Manhattan camp meeting friends who chose Central, and hear reports in our churches from people such as Cotty or Reverend Cottrell, to those of you who didn't have the pleasure of meeting him, and the Central College Male Quartet. Example of my close camp meeting friend Tom Morgan, who is attending tonight, certainly included positive observations about Central, about sports, music, and the great girls who are members of the student body as well. Speaking of friends, may I take a moment of personal privilege to request that we remember one of my teammates on the 1955-56 basketball team in prayer. Just the other day, I called Jerry and Lois Dickerson at their home outside Oklahoma. I had noticed a statement on Facebook that Jerry had been ill. You can imagine my dismay to hear that Jerry had suffered a serious infection in his spinal cord and was now paralyzed from the waist down. He spent almost a year, this last year, in the hospital, partly due to that serious infection and also to a serious situation of bed sores, which Lois indicated brought about 5 different surgeries. Now 2 grandsons help Lois with Jerry's care at home. During the call to him, he apologized he would not be able to attend this event and wished all of us well. Please remember Jerry and Lois in prayer as they bravely face the future. I must hurry on to say I was not disappointed when I enrolled at Central in the fall of 1955. Certainly the faculty and staff provided great models of Christian commitment and competency. Prexy Parsons, with his beautiful spirit and easy manner, witnessed to me of God's love and gave me the much-needed push to give my heart to the Lord. I must pay tribute to my coach, Marvin Selberg, at this time. He not only had a lot of patience for a kid who thought he was something, but coached a solid game of defensive pressure and unselfish offensive patterns. Possibly even more important was the way he and his wife Marie related to each other when our team was invited over to their home. It was so important to us young men to observe a Christian couple who loved and respected each other and were raising their children to love the Lord. So much more could be said. However, I must conclude my observation. In my 81st year, I find that many lessons learned in sports, especially how to learn from losing, and the many people who became, because of athletics, enriched my life, it brings me to this conclusion. It was not the number of points scored or wins recorded that benefited me so much in my life, as it has been the lessons learned, the teammates with whom I played literally all around the world, and the coaches, spouses, and other teachers and administrators influencing I went ahead of my script here, influencing my life and heart, and pointing me by their words and examples to the one, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who has made all the difference. Thank you.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I know as somebody approaching the 7-foot mark, sometimes those long sits, if we could take a moment or two, I'm going to allow you at this point in time, we have it scheduled later. Would you like to stand for a moment? Anybody like to stand, stretch your legs just for a moment? Don't run off, don't go the silver, just get those legs, get a little blood flowing if you care. All right, let's gather back together again, folks, if we can, and we'll move on. We'll try to move on through. We want to move on and give our other 4 inductees ample opportunity to share their reflections. All right, the one individual I'm going to allow to remain standing is over here to my right. We're celebrating the 75th year of cheerleading, and we have at least one cheerleading coach sponsor here this evening, Mrs. Marty Saxton. Please stand and remain standing. Are there other former cheerleader sponsors or coaches here as well? If so, you were involved in cheerleading, yell leader, spirit squad, or dance team. While at Central, please stand along with Marty and remain standing. Are there other cheer? It's my pleasure. We'd like to recognize 2 of those early yell leaders whom you might know. One name that is familiar from the 2nd squad is Mr. Henry Cooney. We're talking 2nd squad, like 44, 45. Mr. Henry Cooney's not with us tonight, obviously, and his wife was unable to attend. And the oldest yell leader here tonight who cheered on the 46-48 squad, Mr. John Farrell. John, please acknowledge the crowd and be recognized. John is with us over here to our left. Tonight, accepting on behalf of her late father, Milt Fuller, would you welcome Mrs. Marva Fuller Hanks, presenting Milt for induction as a player to the 1819 Hall of Fame class, his Fuller teammate and former president of Central, Dr. Harvey Ludwig. As they come to the stage, the 5th inductee recruiting story was retailed or was shared earlier with Dr. Martin and Marvin Selberg. David Farrell discovered Milt's next of kin an even more enchanting story. Unfortunately, Milt passed away in 2011, but his beloved wife, lovely daughter, and towering son were unknowingly awaiting the contact informing them of this forthcoming introduction into the 1819 Central College Athletics Hall of Fame. A surprise cell phone text one evening from his daughter Marva surprised Dr. Farrell, who had spent most of that afternoon evening chasing empty leads before contact from a cousin notified Marva of her father's honor. A delightful visit to Marva's Dallas home by Farrell, his wife Linda, and Father John soon followed. Dr. Ludwig.
As a teammate, it is my privilege to introduce Milt Fuller. Milton Carey Fuller was born on July 22nd, 1939 in Shreveport, Louisiana. He was the 3rd of 4 sons born to Lemuel and Wesley Bell Fuller. He was educated in the Princeton Public School segregated system. He exceeded in many sports and obtained state athletic records in basketball, track, and of course, in track, high jumping, and sprint. In the fall of 1959, Milton enrolled at Central Christian College, where we all enjoyed his basketball abilities. He was very low-key and was called by the press, quote, led by 6'4" Milt Fuller, a lanky freshman cager from Louisiana, end quote. He was not gregarious, but rather soft-spoken. However, after playing Hutchinson Blues Dragons, where we again came very close to knocking them off, we were driving back to McPherson. The highway was narrow, and there was much more narrow than it is now, and it had snowed and ice on it. Coach Selberg was driving. I was in the middle, and Milt was on the passenger seat. This Louisiana man was not used to snow and ice, so he would periodically say, "You're getting a little close over here, Coach." Farther down the road, he would help Coach by repeating, "You're getting a little close over here, Coach." We made it back to McPherson thanks to Milt and his keen observation of our road conditions. Milt graduated in 1961 and continued his education at Seattle Pacific College in Seattle, Washington. Milt lived a fully equipped life after confessing Jesus as his Lord and Savior. During his early walk with Christ, Milt was a member and served as secretary to the Brotherhood, a men's group in his church. That was Bethel Christian Church in Seattle. It was at Bethel that he met Mary Maxine Davis, the love of his life for 45 years. They were married on June 26, 1965, in Detroit, Michigan. Also in Seattle, after leaving for time to spend with his father, he was drafted into the U.S. Army, where he served until March 31st of 1969 with an honorary discharge as a PLC E3P. Milt and Maxine began their family with the birth of their daughter, Marva, and their two sons, Milton Ross and MacArthur. He enjoyed hunting, fishing, and gardening, and so the peaceful atmosphere of Holly, Michigan was ideal for raising his family. Milt worked 33 years for several divisions of General Motors before retiring with dedicated service to the Delphi Energy and and engine management as a ceramic engineer. Tubby, as he was affectionately called by his family, was quiet and thoughtful with a keen sense of humor. He loved reading, sharing God's Word. His desire was for everyone he knew to be rapture ready.
I must say that I've been to many Hall of Fames, and this is especially important and endearing to me because my father was, to say that he was a quiet-spoken man is an understatement. We had no idea that my father had any prolific career anywhere. He was humble, he modeled Christ's love. He was just such a kind-spirited man. David, thank you for getting the dinner together last night so that I could meet my dad's teammates last night, which was wonderful, because out of knowing him for 44 years, he transitioned to heaven year 45 of my mom and dad's marriage. I rarely heard about Christian college. I heard about Johnny Taylor, but that was it. I mean, I think his humility spoke volumes in that he produced 3 kids and allowed us to thrive. And so I think as I've been pondering and taking in all the information and the stories and meeting people that said, "I met your dad, I remember meeting your dad," he kept in him that he even integrated this school, which is a powerful story to share, especially to a little girl of color. But that he was breaking barriers and paving a pathway for the other students of color to come on this campus that I saw today. I really have had a hard time to put it into words. I did have something prepared, but it was just so sweet to be able to take my mom back to the room and have respite after the girls' basketball game just to talk about the incubator that was created here to allow not just my dad to thrive, but to allow myself and my brothers to thrive. So just a little bit, and I will not go over my 3 minutes. My dad had a prolific career here. Most of you know that. But he allowed me to play basketball. I won county championships. I won Big Ten championships. My brother won state championships in Seattle. My husband wins the Super Bowl. Not once does my dad say, but I. Not once. And I think about his love of God. When you think about a father, and that they provide things that you need before you even know it. So when you think about the love of God and he provides for you something that you don't even know that you need, I did not know that I would need the foundation of restraint and humility to walk in the places that I've been able to walk, to sit at the tables that I've been able to sit at is unbelievable. That a father would prepare an invisible foundation, a foundation that you don't even think about. You take for granted how strong and how sturdy it is and how deep it goes. But his love of God is the legacy that I have, and I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity that Coach Selber gave my dad. I'm grateful for the love that he showed to my mom. I think that is the greatest gift that you can give children, is to allow your father, to see your father and the pursuit of his love, of his mate. I saw it. That's the clean version. I gave the more colorful version at his funeral. But it is really, I am rarely at a loss for words. People that know me know I am the complete opposite of my father. As far as talking and being able to whip up a word and to have a room moving, but to sit here and really soak in the atmosphere. I've been to Hall of Fames before. If you don't know that I did play for a Hall of Fame, Coach Vivian Stringer at the University of Iowa was inducted into her own Hall of Fame with the classmates. Her classmates were Michael Jordan and some other guys. My husband played for Bill Walsh, thank you. His son's name is George. So I'm surrounded by a championship culture, but that foundation started at home. And if you want to take some ownership for it, the foundation started here. And so I am full of gratitude, I'm full of humility, and we are so eternally grateful. And as I look at the room, I can't help but know that as this veil is above me, that he's in heaven and just enjoying and soaking in and laughing at Johnny Taylor and the rest of the crew through the veil of heaven, and he is delighted. He is delighted. And so we thank you for the opportunity. We had a night of cutting up, and we kept Johnny Taylor up and Miss Judy way beyond their bedtime, laughing and with stories and things. But please do not let the fun times stop tonight. Please reach out. Verrill is going to take me shooting. When we get back to Texas, I get to go to Winoa, Texas, and continue shooting. My dad, although he was a quiet man, he has memories. I was telling Johnny last night that I feel like I've lived the life of Forrest Gump because of the people and the stories and the relationships that we have had and the people that we've gotten to entertain. It really is unbelievable, and it's remarkable. And it is remarkable that a young, skinny, quiet, lanky kid from Tank Road, Princeton, Louisiana, would make his way up here to McPherson, Kansas, and produce the good fruit that he has. With me, I would like my brother to stand up, and I would like my mom to stand up. And my father would want you to reserve all of that. The clapping and the praise, he would really, really not want that. He would want that diverted. Any praise and any glory would want to go to his Abba Father. And so I thank you, and I welcome the opportunity to be a part of the family. So please do stay in touch as you can, and I thank you. I've gone 3 minutes over my 3-minute limit.
Coaches depend on a lot of other people to run a successful program. There are those people behind the scenes that keep things going smoothly. We'd like all of those unsung heroes to please stand and be recognized. You know who you are. You're clock operators. You are video operators. You are game day preparers, scorebook keepers, PA announcers, statisticians, trainers, team managers, faculty athletic reps, business office check writers, and vehicle procurers, bus drivers. Right, Griff? If you served in any capacity to aid basketball coaches and teams, please stand and be recognized. And if you've ever been a fan of a Central basketball game, please stand. Or if there are any not standing, please stand and stretch your legs. Let's have those people that have been behind the scenes. We've had Dale Burge. Is Dale Burge here that come to mind? These people that help. Come on, you know, Phil Nelson keeps the book. Dale Burge kept the book. These people, they're invaluable to our program. Please welcome to the podium the individual that Marvin just alluded to, our Hall of Fame player inductee, Johnny Taylor. Joining him on the podium to present his outstanding guard from the 59-61 seasons, Coach Marvin Selberg. We'll have Marvin here. We'll have Johnny's coming to the podium here. This next inductee traded places his sophomore season with teammate Milt Fuller to lead the National Junior College Athletic Association Region 6 in scoring. At 19.6 and 19.3, their scoring averages were 0.3 of a point apart the previous year. Johnny's sophomore team played the first game in this gymnasium in 1961. As reported in the school newspaper, Johnny was referred to as one of the finest ball handlers and scorers in school history. Coach Selberg?
Yes, by the way, once you turn 93, you're not allowed to go up and down steps. All those over 93, raise your hand and agree with me. Over those hands now. It's fun to be the oldest person around. You remember a lot. I remember so much about John Taylor. I received word from his coach that this young man had not committed to a college yet, so I went to see him. A bundle of energy then, and when I saw him last night, he remained a bundle of energy. John came from Westmoreland, Kansas, a great high school record. Oh, thank you. Yeah, he had a great high school record, both in basketball and in baseball. He continued that at Central College. In your brochure, it explains some of the basketball qualities that he had. And he was an outstanding member of the team that was a part of the National Junior College Athletic Association. He was, I think, within the top 10 scoring over 2 years. John's not a big guy, by the way, but he still almost led the nation in scoring. He had an intense competitive spirit that, coupled with enthusiasm and emotion, that made for a great individual to be around. I enjoyed John during the several years, 2 years that he was here. I've enjoyed him since because he comes by every once in a while and says, let's go to a ball game together. So we've been in contact during the years. We have a troika going to these events, the other being Mr. Myers back there, who will receive a an award yet this evening. What fun it was with those two men. Anyhow, John was a great shooter and lightning quick. The little guy would shoot the ball. If he ever missed, the big guy would grab the ball and score. That's what the member of one college team said right at the beginning of John's collegiate career. He never missed a practice. He was always enthusiastic. He was strong, and he was healthy. And you could just count on John to do whatever is necessary to win a ball game. They've spoken about some of his qualities. He had the quality of being a great friend. He was totally sold on the principles of Central College in terms of going to class and doing a good job. He was a Christian man, enjoyed the church activities that were part of the team and the school at that time. Now he was a wizard at handling the ball. And I've got to tell you a story that has not been told about John until just now. He brought to McPherson and to the college, I think to the state of Kansas, the ability to dribble the ball behind the back. Now that takes special ability. You don't even see it much on TV anymore. Player going down the court rapidly, suddenly dribble the ball behind the back. If you can imagine a defender, he's watching the player, he's watching him dribble, and the ball disappears. Baffling experience. Not just to the defender, but the officials as well. John was called for traveling every once in a while. And we'd have to talk to the official and ask him the question, how can you be traveling if you're dribbling? By the way, the officials were baffled too. How can you possibly be traveling when you're dribbling the ball down there? He could dribble, he could pass off of that back, behind the back, dribbling and passing. He could score with it very consistently. His record in the Region 6 of the National Junior College Athletics Association, he was tops in scoring. He wasn't tops in rebounding. I don't know why, but that didn't work out that way. Anyhow, I would be very happy to recommend that Johnny Taylor join us with this Hall of Fame award, and I'd like to present him right now to speak for himself. John?
Thank you, Coach. And Marva, we had a great time last night too, okay? I feel very fortunate to have spent 2 years here at Central Christian College. I also feel very honored to be included in this group of fine people. I know that 3 of the guys made a real difference in my life and for the better. Milt and I were together for both years and soon became good friends. I took him home with me on a couple of weekends, and I think he enjoyed it. Coach Selberg was a great teacher and motivator for the game of basketball. He did pick on me once on the baseball field, and if you want to know some details, you'll have to ask him. My sophomore year, right after school year began, a gentleman came up to me and asked if he could be my roommate. I told him it was fine with me. That gentleman turned out to be Galen Snuffy Myers. I had a full-time job that year trying to keep him out of trouble. Maybe it was the other way, was it, Galen? But anyway, we had a great time that year, and we've stayed in contact, as Coach said, through the years. We try to get together to see one game at least during the year, and if we can get Coach right away from vacation or something, well, he goes with us, he and his wife. Galen has been a great friend and so on with me, and he has done very well in the business world, and I want to tell you, I'm very proud of him. I would say the highlight of my time here at Central was the Los Angeles New Year's Pacific Tournament that we won. It was double elimination. There was 8 teams in it. There was Central and one other junior college, and the rest of them were 4-year colleges. I think it was on the second night we got beat, and we played our way back through the losers bracket, and on Saturday afternoon we played the same team that had beat us because they were undefeated, and we put a pretty good beating on them, didn't we, Coach? If I remember right. And we had to turn around that night and play them again, and we did the same thing to them that night to win first place. I was fortunate enough to have a good tournament. I was named MVP of the tournament, and Milt was on the first team, alternate team, and Clem missed it by 1 vote, I believe. Is that right, Coach? And I've often thought it would have been really nice if we'd have had the 3-point goal back in, because I believe Milt and I might have had a few more points. But anyway, there are 2 more people that I'd like to mention this time that are no longer with us. The first would be Marie Selberg. She and Coach treated me great, and like everybody has been saying, they would have us over to the house for a meal ever so often, and she was a delight. The second would be Coach Bacon, who I enjoyed playing baseball for. He was a great person, and I only wish that he was still here to help celebrate with us tonight. I would again like to thank everyone for their help and guidance my 2 years here at Central, and to everyone that made this evening such a wonderful success. Thank you.
Who serves as counselor, confidant, to whom players talk to freely, make all the travel arrangements for those wearisome away games, probably drives the bus, covers the rest of the game for those 2 unjust and unwarranted technical fouls that the head coach just got, lets the coach bounce crazy offensive and defensive plays off of them. You get the idea. Those hardy souls that don't get any good press, but on whom every bad decision rests. Would all of our assistant coaches please stand and be recognized? If you have ever served as an assistant coach in basketball at Central, please stand. Please welcome our Meritorious Achievement Hall of Famer, Galen Myers, to the podium. He will be presented by committee member Ken Lugensland. During his freshman year, Galen had the special opportunity to play with 2 of tonight's Hall of Famers, Milt Fuller and Johnny Taylor. However, Galen made a name for himself in Central's science labs, developing the knowledge and insights that would guide him in his very successful career in the lubrication products field. Myers, nicknamed Snuffy during his college days, has graciously and significantly given back to his alma mater. He has funded scholarships, directed business drives, founded the BG Lecture Series in the business department, and served many years as a Central Christian College Board of Trustees member.
my honor tonight to introduce Galen Myers, this year's Meritorious Achievement Hall of Famer. Through the years, Galen has been committed to Central by serving, supporting, and giving in many ways. Galen wants to say a few words right now. Ready?
I want to break it down with a little bit different approach to share with everyone, but let me just start here. God is good. He hideth my soul in the still waters. So many blessings from so many. Boogie, I know you're going to give a little help with me here on the next opportunity. But anyway, I'm so thankful and humbled to be here tonight for this wonderful honor. Thank you.
After high school, it was given that Galen would attend Central. His parents, as well as his sisters, 2 brothers, 3 sons, also attended Central. Currently, a grandson is attending as a sophomore. That is 4 generations. Now, I think that's fantastic. Now, I don't know what the record is, but it's got to be. I need to check that out. So how many? But I think that is fantastic. But anyway, it was while Galen was attending Central that he met Violet Ricky Hoffman, who became his wife. And with this union, I'm proud to say he became my brother-in-law. You know, we've gotten along pretty good over the years until football season. Well, you know, he's an Okie and I'm a Husker. That don't get along very good. And I always wondered why he liked Tony so much. Where you at, Tony? Okay. I could never figure it out, but I finally found out. He's an Okie. And you know, Tony's all right. You know, Galen's pretty smart. But where did these guys go to get their wives? Up in God's country, Nebraska. Yeah, you know. Oh man, you can't beat it. You know, anyway, while at Central, Galen set a school record. He was doing extra credit work in the chemistry lab. Experimenting with chemicals was more fun for him than work until there was an explosion. His teacher, Dale Lambert, said that in 26 years as a chemistry instructor, this was the first lab's explosion. After a visit to the ER, there was no serious injuries found. However, the incident created lots of excitement on campus. After Central, Galen worked for Pyle Construction. Then, as the war in Vietnam was escalating, he felt a call to serve his country. He joined the United States Air Force and served in the maintenance organization tending to B-52s and KC-135s, serving in Guam, Okinawa, and Texas. After 4 years in the Air Force, Galen and Violet returned to Kansas, choosing Derby as their home. Boeing, and then, of all things, he worked a brief time in experimental department at Boeing. Then in 1968, he seized the opportunity to get into the oil business, beginning as a laboratory technician. Now, after Central, he got this job. Let me go, find my place here. See, I lost it. And then after that, he got a job at Southwest, at the same time as a laboratory technician. Got a job for Southwest Grayson Oil in Wichita. Most of his time there was spent developing new products and testing grease and oil products for government and OEM certification. Galen was still experimenting with the chemicals, but now the experimenting was becoming his life's work. In 1986, BG Products purchased the Southwest plant, and Galen was offered the position of plant manager. After advancement to general manager, executive vice president, and director on board, in 1932 he was offered and accepted the position of president. He then served as chairman and CEO until his retirement in 2014. Through his leadership, BG grew tremendously, both nationally and internationally. Galen and Violet have 3 sons, Sam, Mike, Ken, and are blessed with 4 grandchildren. Mike, Sam, stand up. That's Mike in whatever color shirt that is. But anyway, their youngest son, Ken, poor guy, he was named after me. You know, he had fellows anyway. But Ken and his wife Letty are the missionaries in Nairobi right now, Kenya, and they're the ones that's got a sophomore here at Central, Nathan. So I see him every now and then, try to keep him straight. But the ideals that were shaped back in Oklahoma, yeah, Tony, Oklahoma, yeah, including God, family, and country, are what Galen is still treasures today. He is active at Derby Friends Church and other ventures serving the Lord. Family and God are valuable, that are very important to him. The same commitment to country he had as a child and as a Vietnam vet still burns in him today, just in a different way. Now, Galen, you guys that used to live in Stoll Hall, you remember Stoll Hall? Yeah? A big old cedar tree out there in front of Stoll Hall in the east. Well, you know, that old cedar tree lived a long time, but it finally had to come down. So they got the idea they're going to cut it down part ways to about maybe 7 foot of the trunk. And we have a chainsaw artist in Wichita. They wanted this guy to come up here and do this job, but he's trying to figure who's going to pay for it. So they looked up Galen. Now I got myself ahead of the horse. Now, as you probably heard, Galen became Snuffy. Ricky was always Ricky before they came. But we have this name Snuffy. We have a guy right here. He's responsible for that. John, would you stand up? John Reeser. He's the one that started Snuffy. But I got myself ahead of the horse. But anyway, so they went to Galen. And he said, you know what? If you'll carve in the back of that tree, they're going to make a tiger out of it. If you'll carve in the back of that tree, Snuffy plus Ricky, I'll pay for it. So right now, so anyway, this stuck out in that tree for several years. I don't know how long. But it finally deteriorated, and they had to take it inside just a few years ago. So, and they got it all, they picked the cracks. So now it stands in Briner Library. So if you want to go see it, and if you want to come in and see it, there it is, Snuffy plus Ricky. Congratulations. You want a chair down here, Galen? Yeah, he's asking something. Okay, let's go. Yeah.
There's a special group here this evening that began meeting months ago, not enough months ago, to brainstorm and plan this great event. Please recognize the members of the Hall of Fame 75th Anniversary Committee. I served as chair. Director of Athletics Johnny Garvilla was ex officio. David Farrell, Jerry Malone, Ken Lugensland, Steve Porter, Les Hargadine, and Sherry Horan. Would those folks please? We're not already up to recognize Steve, Sherry, Les, Hardy. With a final heartfelt welcome, please bring to the podium player as well as coach inductee Mike Saxton, accompanied by his former coach Marvin Selberg and one of Mike's players, immediate past president of Central, Colonel Hal Hoxie, United States Air Force, retired. Bring those. Are you ready? Okay. You're up. You're up. You're up.
What follows is a brief synopsis of a speakerphone call to our dear friend and colleague Mike Saxton. It's Mike, are you coming to McPherson February 16th for the Hall of Fame celebration?
Well, we thought about it. We know Coach Selberg's being inducted. We just don't know yet.
Mike, time out. We thought you might like to be there for your own induction to the Hall of Fame.
As the people, times, and places flooded Mike's grateful memory, there was a significant pause. Finally, a phrase from his wife, Marty, that Malone and I have heard exactly once. Mike, say something.
Mike and Marty Saxton arrived as new staff members at Central exactly 1 month after I arrived, and Mike became my boss in admissions. Mike and I shared a lot in common. We loved God, we loved Central, we loved sports, we liked to teach and coach, and some would say we liked to talk. Mike and Marty soon became mentors to many young married couples on campus, as well as in the church and community. Blessed with the gift of making people feel special, Mike and Marty would easily be included in everyone's Friendship Hall of Fame.
Coach first?
No, Don. We're going to do Don Muntz? Okay, all right. Tonight, we are privileged to hear by remote feed from our title sponsor, Mr. Don Muntz, who played on the first 2 teams with Coach Mike Saxton, 1971 through 73, speaking from Key West, Florida.
All right. I think you can hear me. So then I want to say hello from Key West, Florida. I'm sorry, really sorry I couldn't be with you all tonight. I had a commitment here. I got a call from folks at Central, and they told me what you guys were doing tonight. I thought it's just a great thing and really overdue. You've taken the time tonight to honor some really outstanding leaders who've been a part of the community there in McPherson and in Central. So I'm happy to be able to help and support in the event tonight. And as we kick off the discussion about my good friend and coach, Mike Saxton, I'm going to be short. I think it's wonderful, by the way, that there's this thing called Facebook. Unless we stay in touch with Mike and Marty as they travel around the country. But I will tell you, the thing that I do remember, Mike, is the way he made me feel, the way he made us feel. A group of people that you brought together to play and made us feel like family. The acceptance that was a part of being a part of Central Athletics came because of people like you that take that extra effort to reach out and find and care about people. I arrived on campus, I think we would have a baseball team. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but they had taken the baseball uniforms and put them in a box and decided they weren't going to have baseball anymore. I went to Mike and I said, listen, can you help me? We really have a lot of kids that want to play. He volunteered to come out and spend time and support us as we took off and got the stuff up in Mount Falls and went and played some baseball. Just those extra efforts that I really did appreciate during your time at Central. It's been a long time ago, and I'm glad you guys are having this evening. I'm glad to be able to be a part of it. Have a great night.
And now Coach Selberg, he's all yours, then Colonel Hoxie, and then Mike.
Thanks to Lax. Yes, a little history. The first 28 years of college basketball at Central College, we had 9 different coaches. I'm the only one left. I was the 7th. The others are all gone. Guess who's number 10? Mike Saxton. Be careful, Mike. Mike was from Wetmore, that's what it is, Wetmore, Kansas. Look it up if you will. A great basketball player in high school, as well as a baseball player. His only connection to Central College was the fact that he played in a tournament, a baseball tournament, out here in the north edge of town. And then his coach wrote me about Mike not being committed yet. So I went to see him. I found Wetmore. Found him on the field. Had another man with him, and we kind of outnumbered this other man, and I outnumbered Mike, and we talked with him about college. Great visit. End of the story, if you wish. He decided to come to Central. And he was a perfect fit. If there was ever a player who was a perfect fit, he didn't know Free Methodism. He didn't really know McPherson. He certainly didn't know Central College. But lo and behold, he arrived here and he fit right away. He was a part of the community. He had that personality about him that he was able to fit in where he went. Plus, enjoyed it, did a good job, made friends, made a coach happy. And then he went to playing basketball. And he was a wizard, he was a shooter. I kind of taught him to become a rebounder, but he was a shooter primarily. Scoring almost at ease whenever he was playing. He had a capacity of making friends with the officials, the opponents, all of them. It's amazing if he could. But he was a good friend and a good sportsman as well. He made all tournament teams. He scored heavily in the National Junior College Athletic Association. I don't know whether he was second or what, but nationally. I'm not talking about Region 6. I'm talking about nationally. We have 2 things that Mike did that were firsts for Central College, and they're still first as far as I'm concerned. One was bad, and one was good. There's a toss-up. Would you like to vote? Which comes first? We were playing York College. Mike scored 25 points the first half. 2 minutes into the second half, they decided what they were going to do to Mike. And he was hit and he was accelerating down the court, going in for a layup. He was knocked down, knocked unconscious. Flagrant foul, predetermined. Overall, good sportsman. We carried him to the locker room, called the doctor. The doctor said, take him to the hospital. We've got to see him there. Now, that was a first for Central. For me as a coach, maybe it's the last too, for that matter. But he wound up there. 2 days later, after leaving him in the hospital and driving home on the bus, we came back and picked him up. And he missed the next 5 games. A little bit woozy the rest of the season. He's kind of recovered now. The other thing he did was, let's see, that was the bad one. The good thing he did was, we were playing a school that was full scholarship, 10 basketball players, full ride and everything. We had a participation scholarship, which wasn't very extensive. So we didn't have 10 players sitting on the bench. We had 5 pretty good ones, and Mike was a great one. We were playing in Neosho County Junior College. They were playing in McPherson. They came, played in this gym. They were going to win easily. It didn't work out quite that way. It was nip and tuck all the way till near the end. With 10 seconds to go, they scored and tied the game up. We kind of thought we had it won before that time. We had 10 seconds to go. I was shouting timeout, and they went ahead and played. 2 passes, and Mike was down. Hey, I can show you on the court where it would be. It'd be over there if you want to follow me. He shot the ball and we won. Now, Mike won a lot of games by his shooting, but this one was one of a kind. And it was a good one of a kind. It was the first time we had ever beaten one of the full scholarship schools in Central history, which to me was very special. Hey, for that shot, we ought to let him be Hall of Famer. What do you say?
Oh no, you don't get to talk yet. I'm next. I have the distinct honor of discussing Coach Saxton. And first of all, I'm shocked about 2 things. I didn't know you had this many points and all those shots. Shoot, now I know why I loved you and knew you as a player's coach. You took more shots than I did. What a gunner. Jeez Louise. Good job. I'm impressed. If you shoot enough shots, you can win. Thanks, Coach. The other thing is this idea about a fit at this college. Coach, I met in the spring of '77. So I'm like halfway between the Ancients and the Young Bucks. 1977. He showed up at my house and was talking about this place called Central and how I would be a great fit. Boy, did he miss that one. Whew. I came to Central and I was shocked at how much of a misfit I was. But that tells you one of the 2 things I would like to talk to you all about, Coach, and why he deserves to be here tonight. It's because I knew him as a leader. That's number 1. And he's only half. The other half is Marty. And those two demonstrated to us since 1977, the 2 years I got to play here, for the rest of my career in the military, what's it like to live the way Jesus would have you live, and why it's okay to be that, and why it's worth it. To me, that's priceless. And one day, my lovely bride and I woke up and said, wow, we want to be like that. And I thank you, Coach, for those two things. But without Coach, I probably wouldn't have had a career at all, because when he showed up at my house to say, hey, come out to Central, scholarship, I was too stupid and said no. I stayed home. I went to community college in Spokane, Washington, because I don't know why. There was 1,000 reasons why I said no, and boy, was I messed up. I was so messed up, and so for whatever reason, by Halloween, I knew I had really messed this up. So I called Coach again. Yo, Coach, I know I'm not there. I know school's already started, but is there any chance I could come back out here anyway? And he said yes. And I got my little 1963 van and drove myself to McPherson, Kansas. I couldn't even play. But when I walked here, he greeted us with open arms. I finally learned what Southern tea was. Marty taught me that. I didn't know that you put sugar in tea. That was really cool. And I came here and I watched him and I realized, here's a person who's a player's coach. He never said anything negative to any of his players in practice. He even let me practice. Do you know what PMA is? I used to scream that to high school kids. How's your PMA today? How's your positive mental attitude? I never met a leader with a fire in his belly with an attitude like that, and it infected me. And I wanted to play pretty bad, and then they let me play in January, so that was pretty cool. I guess they had some sort of quarter system where I was actually eligible. Is that really true, or did you just let me play anyway? Anyway, I learned some pretty valuable lessons from you, Coach. One of the things that shocks me the most was, how do you as a leader show grace to people when they disappoint you? And if you've ever led people, if you've ever coached, they let you down. Now, how do you respond right then? Coach took us to York, Nebraska on a trip. And it snowed 900 inches on the way up, and we got stuck in the snow, and our hotel was right next to a biker bar. I couldn't stand the temptation. I know, there it was. So I had to sneak over there. But just to make sure I didn't get in trouble by myself, I drugged some teammates. Who was the captain? How do you suppose that was going to go over here at Central when I got home? Not well. We got caught. It was really stupid. But the worst part of all of it was the disappointment on Coach's face when he looked at us and says, I got this. I don't know who you talked into keeping us in school. I was sure we were going to go home when we got back. But instead, we got suspended, which was like hanging me. I didn't get to play games, and instead he made us sit in the gym and watch our team and cheer for him. It was killer. But boy, that sort of discipline, he had this little saying that I used to use when I coached later, is there's really natural consequences for your stupidity. And it was true. But you know, when it was over, we're back on the team. We're going. You're in. Lead the team. He trusted me again. I don't know if he really did, but he acted like it. And it was awesome. Where does that grace come from? From Jesus. And it was in his heart and it was in his soul. And he shared it with us. And I took that with me into the U.S. military, and I made a commitment to try to be that way when people let me down. Because I let you down, Coach, and I thank you today for cutting me some slack. Finally, like I said, you're not just one, you're just a half. Marty's the other half. And throughout our life, after we left Central, we kept track of you two, and you guys kept track of us. And we could call them 2 hours away from this place called Sheridan, Wyoming, and they would stop the planet to make us feel welcome when we stopped by. We would stay at their house. Marty had keys to the gym at Sheridan Community College, and my little people could go shoot hoops and kick balls. They thought she was third grandma. Marty, you're the other half. And we love you guys. We'll always remember you as friends. I don't care if we won. It's what you taught me, my teammates, and everybody you affected in 10 years. Thank you. That's what being a coach at Central Christian is all about, and you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame as a great coach. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I first want to just thank Tony for bringing up those players, and what a neat testimony they gave. Thank you for doing that. For all of you that are here, I don't feel even close to a deserving award like this, but I will accept it. Only because, you know, they made that decision, and I am tickled to death. I'm very proud. You know, I'm going to make this quick because I've got 5 grandchildren that should be in bed by now. My wife, their parents, my daughter, 2 daughters, my son. And my son gave me, and he's been using this term a lot, it's a God thing. And me getting here to Central, and I'm going to get emotional, this was a God thing. I knew nothing about Jesus. I knew nothing about the Bible. I knew nothing about the church. And then here are these men coming through the park while I'm raking hay, and they plant the seed. They were God's people. And after baseball was over that summer, the Legion, I went to California, visit my sisters, and basically was planning on going into the service. As it happened, I'm coming back from California, the south route, and I'm in a Greyhound bus, fast asleep, and it had to be midnight, 1 in the morning. And you know the tracks, the bus had to stop, and that kind of woke me up. And then the bus started forward, and I was laying down in the very back, and the bus just bounced. Seriously, God made sure I woke up. Because the only thing I saw during that continuing drive in front of the campus was this one light bulb, and it wasn't a big one. And under it, it was lighting up 2 words, Central College. And that just made an imprint, because when I got home, I took that material, Coach, you gave me, looked at it, and I realized registration was going on the next day. Well, we were farmers. We were milk cows. And I asked my brother, can you take me to McPherson? And he didn't hesitate. And that's not like my brother. We got the cow's milk. We hurried down to McPherson. And who did I meet? I don't think you even knew I was coming, Coach. But John Farrell was there. And that's who I had to get some financial aid. I didn't have a clue what it was going to cost. And we didn't have any money. I think I had $50 in my pocket. And John Farrell worked everything out. I still owed some money, but at least I could make it here financially. And that's why I stayed. What a great group of kids I got, players I got to play with. You know, Dean Bacon, when baseball, Coach, it was amazing to me to play with the caliber of players that we had. And yes, I could score. I mean, I'm kind of one of those believers, you can't make a basket if you don't shoot it. So he didn't have to encourage me to shoot the ball. The problem was he made the comment, block out. I was playing a forward, and I'm what, 5'10"? I mean, we're playing guys that are sometimes 6'8", 6'10", 6'5". But, you know, I felt good. I saw the statistic, how many rebounds I got. That was a miracle. But I remember in Chanute, I'm coming off the court at halftime. No, I didn't score 25 points that game, but I had maybe 15. And I'm very proud, and Coach notices that. And he comes up and he says, Saxton, you know, you probably scored 10, 15 points, but guess what? The guy you're guarding scored twice that many. And I'll tell you what, I woke up with that. And I'll never forget it because I turned into a defensive coach because I let the offense take over. When I had guys that they had some good shooters, good passers. They didn't have to be taught anything, but they did have to learn how to play defense. Thank you, Coach. And I'm going to kind of leave with that as far as the player part of it. I'm going to go short. I've got 3 more minutes. And there's so many people I would love to thank, but again, after I graduated, went to Pasadena College, ended up, ironically, going to Texas Wesleyan, who we happen to see today out here. It's amazing what God can do. But the one thing that I remember before I leave the team is we had a Fab Five, not Michigan State, but 5 of those players, my roommate included, got me in a room and they said, Mike, we're going to pray for you. And they made me kneel in front of my bed and they prayed. And that was my first really, I didn't know how to pray. They taught me how to pray. Dwight Horton was our pastor. He would come to practice, and I noticed the pastor was always there a lot. And things were just happening, but I wasn't ready. And it wasn't until March, after the Fab Five kept working on me, pushing me, that I gave my heart to Jesus. And then I met my wife, and then it's just a story from there. 5 of my 6 grandchildren are here tonight with me. You want to stand up? I said that because I was afraid they were asleep. But my son, Clint, is here. It's a God's thing, Clint. Stand up. My daughter, Adrian. My other daughter, Audrey. And of course, my daughter's husband, Ryan, and my wife. And then I've got my nephew, Erica, his wife, and Craig. So with that, I'm going to move on to coaching. There was one thing I learned after I left Central, got a degree in Texas Wesleyan, and immediately was drafted. And yes, I ended up in Vietnam. One of the things I was told when I first got there as a lieutenant was an old sergeant, and his advice was this: LT, you're new. These guys have been here. Your platoon of 18 have been here a while. And you need to learn how to listen to them. And what he meant, it wasn't just what they said, because they very seldom would talk back to me as a lieutenant. But it was their mental state, how they looked at you, what they did when you gave them an order, what their reaction was. And it wasn't fun. But I did that with that sergeant who taught me just in those few words what I needed to do to come back home. And with God's grace, I made it back home. And I got back home, and now it's the coaching part. I had no idea what I was doing. I was with Bell Telephone, working in an office with hardly any windows, and I was having to supervise and accounting 18 women. And what do? I just come out of the jungle of Vietnam. I didn't have a lot of time because Bell Telephone wanted me back to work immediately. And so I'm in the office and things are not going well. I want to be outside. I've got to see the air. I want to see the picture. I want to feel freedom instead of being in an office. So what do? Which was computer age. They sent me to St. Louis to be a programmer. Do I look like a programmer? No. I mean, Coach, there's a lot of things you could have done, but nothing was that. I suffered, and it told. My wife was unhappy. And while I'm in St. Louis in a hotel, I get up, and there's a message on my phone. But I was late. I'd been out at night, not proud of that. But after we got done that day, I go back home or go back to the hotel, answer the message, and it's John Farrell. How in the world John Farrell ever found me? My home office was in Lubbock, but he found me at a hotel in St. Louis. And I'll never forget it because it was an answer. Well, it was an answer to prayer that my wife had made because she'd been praying for me deep. And so here I had an opportunity talking to John. He met me in Tulsa. We talked about coming to Central. I immediately went to Lubbock and said, I'm done. And they kind of said, glad. And we're glad that you never fit in. And here I came to Central, and who did I meet immediately? Of course, John Farrell. So I owe a lot to that man. And he had to leave because I wanted him to hear, oh, he's there, John. Oh, thank you. But he's the man that was he was an angel. He did what I wouldn't listen to, he did for me. And we got me here, and that's what the coaching started. Then having Jerry Malone here, luckily it was 5 more years before Jerry Fithian came. And because I never had an assistant coach, and I didn't know what to do when I got him. You look at him, and I didn't have a kid probably maybe over 6'2" at the most. But Jerry was so great to work with, and of course Malone. What a neat experience, but that was all of Central. It wasn't just those two. And I can go down the list of every professor, every teacher, every person I met here. But especially then, we had Tom Griffith as a pastor. And to have him as a pastor here to take care of my kids when they grew up, my 2 daughters were born here, and the opportunity to raise a family right here at Central. And that's why when I hear Tony and watch what he's accomplishing here and his testimony, I mean, what a perfect spot. And so God, thank you. Thank you all for being here. You're the whole reason we were here. And as my son said, it's a God thing. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I gladly accept this award. Thank you very much. Jerry, thank you, buddy. You guys get everything done.
I'm up. Let me get. At this point, I'd like to welcome Central's current Director of Athletics, Johnny Garvilla, and head men's basketball coach, Tony Romero. We have known John for 7 months and have grown to love his service to God, his enthusiasm and vision for Central Athletics. He had been on campus for, Malone, 5 minutes before he began to promote and plan this event. It would not have happened without his vision and support. Tony and wife Lindsay have been on staff at Central for 14 years. He has continued the strong basketball tradition as a coach with the most seniority, 10 years of any of the coaches. John and Tony.
I don't know how to follow all that, and I know we've been here a long time, so I'll definitely try to keep mine short. So first off, I want to take this opportunity for all the many volunteers and those that contributed financially to make this event happen. If we could give those people a round of applause again. And I definitely don't want to take any shine away from our honorees tonight, but I do want to take advantage of sharing about our program and athletic department currently here at Central Christian College. I think all of us coaches here, as well as many in this room, think of our position as coaches more as caretakers of our programs. I think my position is hopefully to continue to follow in the footsteps the likes of the previous coaches in this room and those not present, and leave the CCC men's basketball program in a better place than I found it. Also, being a small private school, you guys understand, there's still years later, fundraising and generosity of others is an important aspect for offering a first-class experience to our student athletes. And it's because some of you guys in this room who have definitely come alongside of me while I've been blessed to serve as the basketball coach here. In my time, we've been able to give a great experience because of you guys. We have been blessed to take our annual team retreats, which some of you guys sponsor here in this room. This year on our retreat, we take our guys out to Salina, to the Webster Conference Center there, and take their phones away, which they love me for that, for a couple days, and we just kind of unplug from the outside world and kind of plug into each other and hopefully plug into Christ. And this year we saw 12 members on that team retreat, and usually every year God moves in that team retreat where we bring in speakers or different people to come and share the gospel with our guys. And we had 12 members of our basketball team this year either make a new or renewed commitment to Christ. We also had the opportunity to take our guys to Daytona Beach, Florida a few times, Las Vegas, Indiana for national tournaments, purchase gear and equipment that has enhanced the experience here for our basketball program. And my goal in sharing with you this evening is hopefully to bridge the powerful past, which we've heard tonight, with the present, and hopefully together build a successful brand of Tiger basketball and Tiger athletics well into the future. As we have heard the many experiences and stories here tonight, as well as me reflecting on my time as a student and athlete here, we want to continue to enhance and build on that experience for many more generations of athletes in the present and the future. In our program, we're currently starting the process of fundraising, well, not just my program, but the women's basketball and the volleyball program. Our South Gym floor, 10 years ago, it suffered some water damage. And the Craftsmen for Christ did a great job putting a Band-Aid on it years and years ago. However, we're in need of a new floor, and we're going to start the process of fundraising for that again. We're also starting the process of fundraising for the men's and women's home locker room renovations, new shooting machine, training materials, biannual sponsorship for team trips, continued support from some of you guys here in this room for gear and team retreats and team Bible studies, as well as other renovations in the South Gym. Also overall, I know this gym, it houses now multiple sports that we have, especially in the wintertime. As we've had lately, it houses baseball, softball, golf, and a number of other wrestling, a number of other sports that participate and practice in here when they can't go outside. And so our goal is to hopefully enhance this facility as well. I know we're going to try to redo the floor in here and build up this facility as well as our weight facility to, again, just to hopefully enhance the experience for our student athletes here. And so if you have any questions regarding how to partner with our basketball program, please feel free to contact myself or Coach Garvilla. Coach Garvilla will share here in a moment with you on how you can engage as a donor for our department. And I want to close by saying this. This evening has been special and has been a special tradition in which I hope we can carry forward well into the future. And also, I want to share this because I listened to all these stories. So much of our lives are lived in the current moment, and to just pause and listen to hear the stories and memories shared about the past was a pretty cool experience. And to think all of it is a part of our history in our school and our basketball program. And last night I had the opportunity to attend an event that Dr. Farrell put on, as well as sponsored by Coach Selberg. And I got to hear a lot of stories, and one of the stories I got to hear was about the courage of Coach Selberg and the courage of Milt Fuller. And to take such a huge leap of faith back in 1959, to break down the color barrier that was in place. That was an awesome and powerful story, Coach. I appreciate you sharing that. In a lot of ways, I feel like I owe a ton of gratitude to both those men for laying the foundation of our program and so many others, and how those decisions have impacted so many lives decades later. It's pretty powerful stuff. And I got to hear so many other stories last night, as well as this weekend. And fifth, I know was going to ask me another question. I want to answer it a little bit. And it was about how this weekend has impacted myself and hopefully our players. And so for our current players and myself, and hopefully everyone in attendance tonight, I just hope you guys heard the power of legacy. And one of my mentors once shared with me is to focus more on the who you are versus what you do. And hearing these stories, I hear character, I hear integrity, I hear Christ, I hear love, I hear passion, I hear commitment, I hear great husbands, I hear great fathers, I hear great friends. And to me, I also hear that they mastered the who, and the what they did took care of itself. I'm definitely a nugget guy and want to gain as much wisdom from others as possible. And I could definitely say I'm truly inspired by our inductees tonight. So can we please give them one more round of applause this evening? I want to thank you for allowing me to share with you today. And at this time, I'm going to ask Coach Garvilla up here as well.
If we go much longer, we'll probably have to induct another group of Hall of Famers. That's not my joke. That's Dr. Favar's joke, actually. Coach Selberg, you become my new hero, but I'm disappointed you told your monthly salary. All my coaches are going to ask for raises now. I was a little disappointed there. But we actually owe you quite a bit, $50 a month, 3 months a year. And Dr. Martin Selberg, his son, told me over 20 family members came to school here, 20. So we actually owe you a good bit of money still. When I got here to Kansas, I came from St. Louis, and I'm not originally from St. Louis. You might be able to tell by the accent. Trying to be winsome while I'm here. I think I've won everybody over except Mary Hawkins, who I just met. She said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from New York." "You're a Yankee." We weren't allowed to say Yankees in our household. She goes, "We don't even like their baseball team." I said, "I'm a Met fan." She goes, "I hate them even more." So anyway, hopefully I'll win Mary Hawkins over and some others. But when I got here, Pastor Griffith made a big impact on me. But he's a pastor, and I expect pastors to tell the truth. And he said, "There's more hills in Kansas." I said, "It's so flat." And he said, "There's more hills in Kansas." I said, "Pastor Griffith, a hill is something you can't see over." I had to get on my tiptoes. I have a dog named Rufus. I had to put him down recently, and love Rufus, 140-pound Mastiff. He ran away back to St. Louis. He's getting lonely. So for the first 2 days, I could still see him running. And but anyway, I couldn't see him after the third day. Matthew 18:20, "For where two or more gathered in their name, there I am in their midst." I start almost every prayer with that. I talked to Marva and about that, and the presence here, and her coming here, and others. I just felt God's presence, and I knew God had me come here. And I go through that story, but it'd take a while, and we only got 3 hours left. But I knew for sure God's got a sense of humor. An Italian-American president, an Italian-American athletic director at a Methodist school. That doesn't make any sense at all. No sense at all. But anyway, here we are, 2 apostles, I guess. Events. I was on the board of Fellowship Christian Athletes, and when I was asked to start an event, I said 4 things got to happen. Otherwise, I don't want any part of it. I said the gospel's got to be presented. There's no compromise there, none. The gospel was presented to those 2 young men. Let's give them a hand again. The gospel was presented. And then our coach here, the mission and vision, our president. I go through heck and back. Are you allowed to say hello to Methodist? Colonel Hoxie, are we? Too late. But I go through hell and back for that man. I go through hell and back for Colonel Hoxie as I've gotten to know him. And these men right here. I'd also like to give a hand for the MCs. They did a tremendous job. When I went out to eat with a buddy of mine, Joel Christie came to visit. Hopefully he'll be part of this institution. He's a Citadel graduate, fought in Desert Storm, a Marine. Joel was in my wedding. We went out to eat with the comedy act, Jerry and Jerry. And I said, what's going to change this athletics? What's going to make a difference here? And Jerry put his finger in my chest and he said, you staying, you staying. And that said a lot to me. This is the first time I've ever written a speech. I got a 1.0 my first semester. Coach sent me back to the junior college to get eligible. I got a 66 in English my senior year, but I have about 42 or 43 first cousins. I'm near the end, and Mr. Val said, Garvilla, you're not coming back. I'm the only 12th grade English teacher, and the Garvillas are about near the end. So I got an economy of words, but today I wrote a speech, first time. Can we have the members of the committee please stand? The members of the committee that were on this committee, please stand. Okay, I want the men to stay standing. Sherry, great job, but I'd ask you to sit down. You were the graduating class of 2000, okay? But these guys, look at them carefully. Average age, maybe $102, 92, something like that. These guys got more hair than me, and their waistlines are thinner. If I stay here another 30 years, I hope to have some hair like Loogie and the rest of them. But you guys, it was an honor to work with them. I learned so much from them, and they impacted my life in a short time. Let's give them a hand. Okay. I told you to wear a hat. I tell you, Loogie, when I met him, he said, we talked about a memorabilia table, and he said, hey, I got my sneakers, and they're still in the box. So he's going to bring his sneakers here. And then I asked, what else? And he said, he's got his suitcase that his sister and your brother used to come here. And he said, I also have my jock strap. We had to stop him right there. No, that's it. No more. But anyway, you know, Coach Selberg, I couldn't imagine what your players, recruiting African Americans to come here in the 60s. In 2003, I was the first athletic director in the state of Mississippi at a private college to hire an African American head coach. Okay? I took a lot of hits, but when my coach took some hits, the president wasn't happy when I got on social media, and I had anonymous people writing on footballscoop.com, and they attacked his race and his character. I made a bozo mistake. I told those individuals, I told them who I was. I wasn't going to hide behind an anonymous name. My name is Johnny Garvilla. I'll meet you anytime, any dark alley, any place. Hey, probably not the smartest move, but hey, that's what I believed in. We just hired an African-American volleyball coach. The last 3 coaches I've hired at 2 schools, were African-Americans. They were the best coaches. I didn't look at them as African-Americans or white or Chinese or female. I hired the best coaches. One almost lost his job, and I put my job on the line at the last school. After a week of hiring him, they wanted to fire him. And we were able to save his job. And Coach Selberg, you're my hero, okay, to do what you have done, to bring these young men here, to impact their lives for Christ. Thank you. Coach Saxton, you too. The character traits you portray, you guys, as Billy Graham said, he said that a coach impacts more lives than the average person does in a lifetime. Well, you have, and it's true here. At this time, I get to serve a great group of coaches, and I rarely use the word great, but they have huge potential, and they're serving their student athletes, and I'd like each and every one of you to stand. Those coaches that coach currently at Central Christian College. Please give them an ovation. So where am I going from here? JD, can you please hit the slide? We need your support. No, the first slide, JD. No, that one. Okay. We need your support. New gym floors. Okay, you're right, Dr. Favara. I walked these floors just on the outside, and they were creaking. Maybe because I'm 252 pounds and played at 170, but they're creaking. We need to replace this gym floor. Okay, we have already gotten a gift. Okay, the Butterfield Foundation has been very generous, giving us $20,000. Don't know if I was supposed to say that, but very generous in the athletic training room and improving it and the lighting. And then Colonel Hoxie, in his own pocket, gave us several $1,000s for a nice machine and additional money to name the facility. And it took a while to get him to allow me to do it, but I said, hey, we need to do it, Colonel. We need some traction. And it was just a short visit, and he said, as long as you name it in honor of my wife, because she's the better athlete than I was. Now, I'm a Christian. Everything I say is true or possibly could be true. I don't lie. And then, yeah, the athletic training room, the ice machines. We need your help. So I'd like you to take out on your table, you have join the Tiger team. Please take that out. They're in what are they in? Something. They're on the table. Please, everyone take it out. Okay, Dr. Favara said if we don't join the Tiger team, then we're here another 3 hours till you do. Okay, there's a 3-year commitment we're asking you for. You can do it monthly. Members there have opportunities to join the Tiger team. We ask that you fill it out, even if it's $10 a month, $5 a month, $1 a month. If we have 200 people in this room, even if you gave $1 a month, it'll help our coaches serve our student athletes better. So 12 men next year can come to know the Lord. So we can put men and women from this current classes into the Hall of Fame so they can hear some of the same speeches. So we send one Martin Luther, we send one Hudson, we send one Mother Teresa out into the world and impact this world for Christ and make a difference. I was a delinquent growing up. If Tip Frank hadn't discipled me, okay, Colonel Sullivan hadn't come into my life, if Dr. Montgomery hadn't discipled Tip Frank 30 years later in Ohio, earlier in Ohio, and then Tip Frank meets me 20 years earlier in South Carolina, and then Dr. Montgomery 10 years later in Tennessee. If that doesn't happen, I don't come to know the Lord. 3 of my 4 children don't come to know the Lord. I don't marry a Christian woman. So we ask that you will support our programs. If you turn it over on the back, you can give it to general athletics, check a box, or write it in. You can give it to the baseball team, basketball team, any of our teams. Or you can name an office. The athletic training room is already taken, but the weight room. But we ask you, please make a commitment. And if you can't financially, make a prayer commitment. We ask that you just commit to this institution, re-engage. Thank you for this opportunity, and back over to our MCs. Godspeed.
Central continues to thank you for your love and support, and you can leave those forms on your table as you fill them out or pledge. Please leave them there on the table. Also, there's another form in that container. If you pull those out and look at them, the video and picture order form and memory picture. So please read through that if you would like to purchase one of those. It says down on the bottom, please give a check and form to David Farrell. David, where are you? There he is, right back there. So if you would like that to remember this evening, please check with Dave. Let's recognize one final time the 8 inductees to the Central Christian College Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2018-19. Please stand. Mr. Howard Krober, Mr. Marvin Selberg, Reverend Dr. Tom Griffith, Dr. Don Mason, Mr. Milt Fuller, Mr. Johnny Taylor, Mr. Galen Myers, and Mr. Mike Saxton. Congratulations to these Central Tiger legends. Would you please stand with me? And if you look on this side of your program, your placemat, of which you can take with you, we're going to sing the alma mater. And I know the alums had to memorize this many, many years ago. The new alums probably don't. So sing with me. There's a place where many love together. No fault shall pass dear to me. Where the sunflowers grow in golden glory, and the breeze sighs a sweet reverie. All hail to thee, our Central dear. Our memories of thee will never fail. We'll sing thy praise, our banners high we'll raise. Our Central dear, to thee all hail. And please remain standing as Colonel Hal Hoxie leads us in the benediction.
Prayer first, if you guys would pray with me. Father God, we thank you for this beautiful evening. We thank you for all the folks that put this together. Thank you for the blessing of legacy. We all look forward to seeing you in the eternal kingdom. And we love you. So thank you, Jesus. Amen. The weather is harsh out there, so please be careful as you drive home. But no matter what you do, go in peace and safety. And here's your benediction for the night from 2 Corinthians chapter 13. Finally, brothers, rejoice, aim for restoration, comfort one another, agree with one another, live in peace, and the God of love and peace will be with you all. Amen.